Chapter 211. Ning Shu originally wanted to give Lin Qianqian the medicine, but Ji Qingyuan was sitting by the bed in front of Ning Shu. It was obvious that he didn't want Lin Qianqian to drink the medicine. Without the approval of the Ministry of Health, how could she drink the medicine? If she doesn't want to drink it, then so be it. After all, Lin Qianqian is the unlucky one. Let's keep it for ourselves. Zhuang Yutong, since she doesn't appreciate it, let's keep it for ourselves, Su Manyu said, rolling her eyes. Ning Shu looked at Lin Qianqian's pale face and pale lips. He asked Ji Qingyuan, "Are you sure you don't want to drink it? The longer you drag it out, the worse it will be for your health. Su Manyu and I have both drunk this medicine." Ji Qingyuan waved his hand. "I'm not drinking it." "Fine, if she doesn't want to drink it, then so be it. After all, the female lead won't die." Su Manyu took the medicine from Ning Shu and said, "I just touched Lin Qianqian and felt cold all over. Let me drink this medicine." Su Manyu snatched the medicine from him and gulped it down. Ning Shu was speechless. It felt like this girl was eating the medicine like it was candy. Ji Qingyuan held onto Lin Qianqian's hand with an unpleasant expression and asked Su Manyu, "What's going on? What's going on? Isn't this a malicious spirit that Lin Qianqian summoned?" Su Manyu asked coldly. "A malicious spirit?" Ji Qingyuan touched his neck, his expression unreadable. Ning Shu was more curious about why the malicious spirit had controlled Lin Qianqian to strangle Ji Qingyuan. It was quite surprising. Ning Shu kept looking at Ji Qingyuan. Su Manyu nudged Ning Shu and asked, "What are you looking at? Why did the malicious spirit want to kill you?" Ning Shu asked Ji Qingyuan. They had provoked the malicious spirit because they played with the pen spirit. But why did the malicious spirit want to kill Ji Qingyuan? And why did it use Lin Qianqian to kill Ji Qingyuan? Ji Qingyuan said with a cold expression, "How would I know?" Pung! The window was blown open by a strong gust of wind. A bone-piercing cold wind blew in. The wind was mixed with a kind of mournful sound. At the door of the window, there was a faintly discernible ghostly figure with disheveled hair. It looked exceptionally frightening. Su Manyu immediately hid behind Ning Shu. Her entire body was curled up behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu's fingers were holding the dark and cold soul pearl, which was trembling slightly. Ji Qingyuan's face was full of shock and fear. There really is a ghost. The wind blew against his face, causing him to feel a dull pain. An enlarged ghostly face appeared by the window. It was full of knife scars and was slowly rotting away. It appeared here and there, making people feel incomparably terrified. It spat out venomous words. "I'm going to kill you. Why are you doing this to me? Why? The temperature in the room dropped even lower. The ghostly shadow outside seemed to be very agitated. It wanted to rush in through the window, but it was wary of the thing in Ning Shu's hand, so it did not dare to come in. However, it was very resentful and agitated. It felt like it was particularly concerned about someone in the room. Ning Shu glanced at Ji Qingyuan. He felt that this female ghost should be related to Ji Qingyuan. Previously, the female ghost had treated them like a cat playing with a mouse, but today it was particularly agitated. Ning Shu walked towards the window. Su Manyu grabbed onto Ning Shu's clothes. "What are you doing? Don't go over there." Ning Shu ignored Su Manyu. Su Manyu stomped her feet, but she did not dare to follow Ning Shu to the window. With every step Ning Shu took, the female ghost moved further away from the window. In the end, she was really afraid of the thing in Ning Shu's hand and ran away on her own. The wind suddenly stopped. "Zhuang Yutong, not bad. Even the ghost was scared to death by you." Su Manyu wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. Ning Shu was really annoyed by this female ghost. Why did she want to take the lives of innocent people like them? Ji Qingyuan's face was pale. He said, "We can't stay here. Lin Qianqian can't stay here." "Then hurry up and take Lin Qianqian away. It's best if you leave. This female ghost wants to kill you. You must be related to this female ghost." Ning Shu waved his hand. Ji Qingyuan was speechless. Ning Shu closed the window. It was still early in the morning. Should he go back to sleep? Ning Shu touched Lin Qianqian's forehead. She was starting to have a fever. "Do you want to take her to the hospital? Lin Qianqian is sick," Ning Shu asked Ji Qingyuan. Ji Qingyuan's face was pale, and his eyes were lifeless. Suddenly encountering such a situation, Ji Qingyuan felt like his worldview had been turned upside down. When he heard Ning Shu's words, his eyes were in a mess. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Sick. Ji Qingyuan frantically touched Lin Qianqian's forehead. His face was full of anxiety, but seeing that it was so dark outside, he didn't dare to take Lin Qianqian to the hospital. Ji Qingyuan, you should take Lin Qianqian to the hospital. If this drags on, she might burn her brain, Su Manyu said to Ji Qingyuan. Ji Qingyuan looked hesitant. Su Manyu continued, it's so late now. Let's drink Zhuang Yutong's medicine. That's all we can do. Ji Qingyuan rubbed his forehead. His entire person appeared to be very tired and afraid that he could not get rid of. Ning Shu pursed his lips. He poured the medicine into Lin Qianqian's mouth and poured it in. She should have drunk it earlier. It's morning. Let's take Lin Qianqian to the hospital, Ning Shu said calmly. That night, no one slept well. Ji Qingyuan didn't sleep at all. As soon as the sun rose, he took the unconscious Lin Qianqian and left. Su Manyu saw how much Ji Qingyuan cared about Lin Qianqian. She pursed her lips and asked Ning Shu sourly, is Lin Qianqian really that good? She's not good looking, and doesn't come from a good family. At most she's from a well-off family. Her personality is even worse. She's evil like a white lotus. What's so good about her? Su Manyu was very dissatisfied. Ning Shu was speechless. You make it sound like your personality is good. You're sharp-tongued, arrogant and domineering. But Su Manyu had the right to be arrogant. She came from a good family, and was beautiful. She was better than Lin Qianqian in every aspect. What's so good about Ji Qingyuan? What do you like about him? Ning Shu asked. Just because he's handsome? Su Manyu thought for a moment and said, I don't know. I just like him. Ning Shu pursed his lips. You're pretty and your family is as rich as Ji Qingyuan's. Why would you like him? That does make sense. Su Manyu nodded. Now that the female ghost is a threat, I don't have the energy to focus on these things. Ning Shu thought for a moment and asked Su Manyu. Do you think there's a way to see a ghost? Aren't we seeing a ghost now? Su Manyu rested her chin on her hand. If this isn't called seeing a ghost, then what is? I'm talking about seeing a ghost. I heard that if you put cow's tears on your eyes, you can see a ghost. Ning Shu looked at Su Manyu. Su Manyu, can you get some cow's tears? Chapter 212. Ning Shu wanted Su Manyu to get some cow tears. She really didn't want to stay in this mission world anymore. She was always on tenterhooks and didn't get a good night's sleep. Although she had the spirit orb, she couldn't rest until this female ghost was dealt with. I don't want it. Su Manyu shook her head. I'm scared to death right now. I want to see her. I don't want it. Ning Shu said. Granny gave me something that can deal with her. If I see her, I'll definitely be able to deal with her. Are we just going to live like this forever? Su Manyu thought for a moment. Where do you want me to get cow tears for you? I'll think of a way. Ning Shu nodded. Try to be quick. The longer we delay, the worse it will be. What if something happens to us? Ji Qingyuan, who had sent Lin Qianqian to the hospital, returned and said to Su Manyu, I'm going to find a Taoist priest to deal with this evil spirit. I'll leave Qianqian in your care. Su Manyu rolled her eyes and said, I can't take care of Lin Qianqian. This female ghost appears and disappears like a ghost. I can't even take care of myself. So how can I take care of Lin Qianqian? If anything happens to Lin Qianqian in the future, you'll hate me for the rest of your life. I don't want to do something so strenuous and unrewarding. You'd better take Lin Qianqian with you. Su Manyu's words were so direct that Ji Qingyuan was speechless for a moment. Ji Qingyuan said, I also want to bring Qianqian along, but Qianqian is really not feeling well right now. Moreover, her injured leg got worse last night. There's no way to bring Qianqian along. Ning Shu also said, you should take Lin Qianqian with you. There was a lot of luck between the male and female leads. Even if something happened, it wouldn't be life-threatening. Ji Qingyuan originally wanted Su Manyu to take care of Lin Qianqian. Ji Qingyuan knew that Su Manyu liked him and would probably agree to take care of Lin Qianqian. But he didn't expect Su Manyu to reject him. This made Ji Qingyuan feel a little uncomfortable. Besides, he was here for this dorm. If it weren't for Lin Qianqian being here, he wouldn't even care about this mess. Ji Qingyuan, you should be careful. This female ghost has a grudge with you. She wants to kill you. Ning Shu felt that they had provoked the female ghost because of Lin Qianqian, who was Ji Qingyuan's girlfriend. When Ji Qingyuan heard Ning Shu say this, his face, which had not slept all night, became even more unsightly. He looked at Ning Shu with a very sharp gaze. What right do you have to say that? I have nothing to do with this female ghost. Ning Shu shrugged and didn't say anything else. Ji Qingyuan saw that Su Manyu wasn't willing to help him take care of Lin Qianqian, and it wasn't the best time to bring Lin Qianqian home. Ji Qingyuan took a deep breath. His expression was haggard, and he sounded much colder when he spoke to Su Manyu. I'll take Qianqian with me, and I'll get the Taoist priest to take a look at Qianqian's body. Ning Shu asked, Who introduced this Taoist priest to you? It's none of your business who introduced him to me. Ji Qingyuan's attitude towards Ning Shu was very disdainful. Ji Qingyuan was very impatient with Ning Shu's questioning. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to care. The matters between the male lead and the female lead weren't for a little cannon fodder like her to care. Ji Qingyuan left in a hurry. Su Manyu looked at Ji Qingyuan's back and pursed her lips. She looked like she was about to cry. He's angry at me. I don't think we can even be friends in the future. Ning Shu looked at her with disdain. What kind of person are you? Useless. Isn't he just a man? What does a country bumpkin like you know? Su Manyu sneered. I've liked Ji Qingyuan for a long time. You don't understand at all. Tisk. Ning Shu gave her the middle finger. You're so pretentious. He doesn't even like you, and you're still acting like a bitch. It's disgusting. Su Manyu's face turned green with anger after hearing Ning Shu's words. Zhuang Yutong, do you want to die? Ning Shu, ha ha ha. After Lin Qianqian left, only Ning Shu and Su Manyu were left in the dormitory. Strangely enough, the female ghost didn't harass them again. Su Manyu also found it strange. Ning Shu said, Don't tell me she went to look for Ji Qingyuan and Lin Qianqian. Ning Shu didn't care at all. He shrugged and said, Maybe. Su Manyu's face revealed a worried expression. She was obviously worried about Ji Qingyuan. Ning Shu pursed her lips. Don't act like you're constipated. It's so disgusting. Zhuang Yutong, will you die if you don't speak? Su Manyu roared at Ning Shu angrily. Yes. By the way, my family sent the cow's tears over. They were collected from the slaughterhouse. It took a lot of effort. Zhuang Yutong took out a small glass bottle from her bag. It was filled with liquid. Ning Shu took the bottle and shook it a little. He said to Zhuang Yutong, Why don't we try it tonight? Hey, I don't want to. Su Manyu shook her head. I'll be traumatized if I see it. Ning Shu was curious. At night, he rubbed the cow's tears on his eyelids. He then opened his eyes and looked around. Su Manyu curiously asked Ning Shu, Can you see it? Ning Shu covered his mouth and stared at Su Manyu's back with wide eyes. He pointed at her back. Your back. Ah! Su Manyu jumped in fright and hid behind Ning Shu. Her teeth were chattering. What is it? What? Ning Shu laughed. I lied to you. Su Manyu's fist landed on Ning Shu's body. She used a lot of force. Ning Shu immediately dodged and gave her the bottle. Wipe it on yourself. Otherwise, you'll say I lied to you again. Su Manyu hesitated. In the end, she rubbed the cow's tears on her eyelids. She looked around and said, There's no ghost. Ning Shu leaned against the window and said to Su Manyu, Come and see if there's anything in this room. Su Manyu stood by the window and looked outside. She immediately saw many wandering ghosts. These ghosts all had blank faces and were very thin. They looked like they were about to disappear. Looking at these ghosts, Ning Shu wasn't surprised. This was a spiritual world. It was normal to have ghosts. Otherwise, it wouldn't have given birth to a spirit pearl. Su Manyu, on the other hand, was scared to death. She quickly squatted down and wiped away the cow tears on her eyelids. She said to Ning Shu, Are we in hell? Why are there such things everywhere? Actually, there's no need to be afraid. We live in a different dimension from them. We won't meet them. The female ghosts we met can affect the magnetic field. That's why these supernatural things happened. I wonder how Ji Qingyuan and the others are doing. Su Manyu wasn't that scared. Ning Shu wasn't worried at all. Looking at Su Manyu, he asked, I really don't see anything good about Ji Qingyuan. It's because of his appearance. Ning Shu thought that there were too many good-looking perverts. Chapter 213. Ning Shu and Su Manyu lived peacefully for a few days. But after a few nights, the female ghost came back, and the temperature in the dormitory dropped a lot. Su Manyu hugged Ning Shu's arm tightly and said in a trembling voice, "Yutong, she's back. Where are Ji Qingyuan and Lin Qianqian?" Ning Shu didn't say anything. He took out a cow's tear and rubbed it on his eyelids. He looked around and saw a female ghost sitting on Lin Qianqian's bed. She was surrounded by black gas, and her soul looked very thin. Her face was covered with knife scars, and her eyes were full of hatred. When she met Ning Shu's eyes, Ning Shu bared his teeth. He seemed to be worried about something and didn't come to Ning Shu's side. Ning Shu quickly threw the soul pearl at the female ghost. The female ghost dodged the soul pearl, but a part of her soul was sucked away by the soul pearl. The black gas on her body dissipated a lot, and her soul became very thin. The female ghost floated outside the window. Ning Shu roared angrily, and the whole dormitory shook. The bed fell down. Ning Shu pulled Su Manyu off the bed and picked up the soul pearl on the ground. All of a sudden, it was as if there was an earthquake, making one unable to stand steadily. Ning Shu sank her chi into her dantian and stood still on the ground. Su Manyu fell on the bed and grabbed Ning Shu's clothes tightly. Why is she so angry? She's just an arrow at the end of its flight. Ning Shu looked at the female ghost's thin soul. If the Taoist priest came, she wouldn't be able to hold on for long. You all have to die. I hate you. You all have to die. You all have to die. The female ghost's vicious words made one's scalp tingle. The cow's tear on Ning Shu's eyelids dried up, and he couldn't see where the female ghost was. The female ghost's movements also became smaller and smaller. In the end, she stopped breathing. Su Manyu cried out and sat on the ground. She wiped her cold sweat. If this happens a few more times, my heart won't be able to take it. The dormitory was in a mess. Ning Shu picked up the fallen bed and tidied up the dormitory. Do you have Ji Qingyuan's number? Give him a call and ask. Ning Shu said to Su Manyu, who was as soft as a puddle of mud, as he tidied up his things. Yeah, make a call, make a call. Su Manyu took out her phone and dialed a number. After a while, she was so angry that she almost threw her phone away. Ning Shu said, I can't get through. He said he's not in the service area. Ning Shu shrugged his shoulders. He didn't know where the male and female leads were right now. Ning Shu's intuition told him that the female ghost must have met that Taoist priest and exchanged blows with him. Otherwise, her soul wouldn't be so weak. Just now, a part of his soul power had been absorbed by the soul pearl, so his soul power was very weak. Ning Shu felt that the soul pearl in his hand had become a little heavier. He felt that this thing was really strange. It could only enter and not exit. Ning Shu really coveted the soul power inside. The female ghost became weak and rarely came out to cause trouble. It seemed that she was recuperating. Ning Shu wondered when the Taoist priest would come. This was really the best time to get rid of the female ghost. After the female ghost suffered once, she didn't dare to enter the dormitory again. Ning Shu sometimes wiped the cow's tears on his eyelids and saw that the female ghost was actually devouring other wandering souls. The black aura on her body was getting thicker and thicker. Damn, Ning Shu saw this scene and didn't know what to say. It was better to get rid of this ghost quickly. Not only did it kill people, but it also devoured ghosts. Luckily, he had the soul pearl. Otherwise, Ning Shu wouldn't have been able to protect himself and Su Manyu. Saving a life was better than building a 7-floor pagoda. Ning Shu and Su Manyu had been together for a long time, so they had developed some feelings for each other. After a period of peace and quiet, Ji Qingyuan and Lin Qianqian finally returned. Lin Qianqian had lost a lot of weight. Even her skin was a lot darker. Her leg was still in a cast. Ji Qingyuan was also travel-worn. Ji Qingyuan helped Lin Qianqian sit on the bed. Su Manyu asked Ji Qingyuan, Where did you guys go? Why couldn't I get through to your phones? Ji Qingyuan rubbed his forehead. He looked tired and said, The signal is bad. Why are you guys in such a mess? Was the journey not peaceful? Su Manyu poured a glass of water for Ji Qingyuan, ignoring Lin Qianqian. Ji Qingyuan took the glass and passed it to Lin Qianqian. He asked Lin Qianqian. Qianqian, does your leg still hurt? Lin Qianqian frowned. She touched her leg and said, my leg hurts. The doctor said that you have to take care of your leg. Nothing bad will happen to it. Ji Qingyuan said seriously. He ignored Su Manyu, who was pouring water for him. Su Manyu was so angry that her face changed. Ning Shu watched from the side. He felt that Ji Qingyuan and Lin Qianqian's relationship had deepened. It was probably because they had gone through so much together. Seeing Su Manyu's expression, Ning Shu pursed his lips. You're done for. Su Manyu saw Ning Shu's expression, and her face darkened. Why did Zhuang Yutong keep mocking her? Would she die if she didn't laugh at her? Why was she so happy to see her fall out of love? Su Manyu's expression darkened. She then asked Ji Qingyuan, what happened on the way here? Did you find the priest? We found him. He's at my house right now. He'll be back tonight to exorcise the ghost, Ji Qingyuan said. But a lot of things happened on the way here. He and Lin Qianqian had narrowly escaped death. Moreover, Lin Qianqian's leg injury had worsened. The doctor said that if it wasn't treated properly, it was likely to be amputated. On top of that, her fever had worsened the injury. Ji Qingyuan's heart felt heavy. There were too many things weighing on his mind. Ji Qingyuan felt that this female ghost hated him very much. He clearly didn't have anything to do with this female ghost, but she insisted on killing him. Are you going to exorcise the ghost tonight? Ning Shu asked Ji Qingyuan. Ji Qingyuan ignored Ning Shu completely. He ignored Ning Shu and didn't say a word. In any case, he completely ignored Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. What the fuck, am I invisible? In Ji Qingyuan's heart, he didn't treat Ning Shu as an equal. He didn't want to answer Ning Shu's question at all. Damn. Ning Shu was so embarrassed that he felt cancer from embarrassment. This was the first time he had met someone who was so arrogant. Is the Taoist priest you found reliable? Su Manyu asked Ji Qingyuan. Ji Qingyuan calmly said, he's a Taoist priest who cultivates in the mountains. His cultivation level is very high. He knows my father. My father asked me to find him. Uncle Ji knows a Taoist priest? Su Manyu was shocked. Ji Qingyuan didn't care. My family runs a business. We travel from the south to the north. What's so strange about my father knowing all kinds of people? Why doesn't my father know any Taoist priests? Su Manyu asked casually. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He felt a little strange. Lin Qianqian was staying in the dormitory. Her leg injury was so serious. Why didn't she go to the hospital? Why was she staying in the dormitory? Chapter 214. After Ji Qingyuan settled Lin Qianqian down, he asked Su Manyu to take care of her and pour her some water. Su Manyu reluctantly pouted and nodded. Lin Qianqian lay on the bed. She seemed to be too tired and fell asleep as soon as she lay on the bed. Ning Shu and Su Manyu looked at each other, then went about their own business. But Lin Qianqian suddenly sat up and turned her stiff neck to look at Ning Shu and Su Manyu. Lin Qianqian, what do you want? Su Manyu asked Lin Qianqian without looking up. Lin Qianqian didn't answer Su Manyu. She lifted the covers off the bed and stood up. She dragged her leg, which was in a cast, toward the door as if she couldn't feel the pain in her leg. Seeing Lin Qianqian like this, Ning Shu knew she was being controlled again. He quickly grabbed Lin Qianqian and placed the spirit pearl on her body. This time, the female ghost didn't leave Lin Qianqian's body. Instead, she turned around to strangle Ning Shu. How dare you stop me? I want you dead. How dare you treat me like this? She said menacingly. Ning Shu took 2 steps back and avoided Lin Qianqian's hand. She then kicked Lin Qianqian to the ground and pinned her down. She then yelled at Su Manyu. Come over here and help pin her down. Lin Qianqian was very strong. Ning Shu almost couldn't hold her down. Su Manyu wiped the cold sweat off her palms on her clothes and quickly came over to help pin Lin Qianqian down. Ning Shu tore off Lin Qianqian's sheets and tied her wrists and ankles. He then stuffed the spirit pearl into Lin Qianqian's mouth. With the pearl in her mouth, Lin Qianqian struggled more and more violently. In the end, her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Ning Shu took out the spirit pearl, wiped his saliva on Lin Qianqian's body, and put it away. Are you done yet? You're annoying me to death. Su Manyu looked irritated. Ning Shu sneered. It's good that you know you're annoying. You won't know when you're dead. Su Manyu. Ning Shu noticed that the plaster cast on Lin Qianqian's feet had shattered. The skin under the cast was bruised and swollen. It seemed that Lin Qianqian's legs were in serious condition. Previously, when she had only rolled down the stairs, it wasn't this serious. But now that she had dragged it out, and had traveled with Ji Qingyuan, her legs were getting worse. Give Ji Qingyuan a call, Ning Shu said to Su Manyu. As soon as Ning Shu finished speaking, the dormitory began to shake. Just like the previous earthquake, the bed fell and landed on Lin Qianqian's leg. Lin Qianqian screamed and fainted again. Ning Shu was speechless. Another bed fell, heading straight for Lin Qianqian's head. Su Manyu covered her mouth as she watched the metal bed fall towards Lin Qianqian's head. It was as if she could see Lin Qianqian's head being smashed in the next second. Ning Shu immediately channeled her qi and hurriedly used her hands to support herself off the falling metal bed. Only then did she stop the metal bed from falling. The shaking stopped. The dormitory was in a mess. Ning Shu lifted the metal bed that was on Lin Qianqian's leg. Looking at Lin Qianqian's leg, he guessed that it had been shattered. Give Ji Qingyuan a call. Ning Shu shook his head. It seemed that the female ghost hated Lin Qianqian. She kept possessing Lin Qianqian's body and wanted to kill her. After Su Manyu called Ji Qingyuan rushed over. When he saw Lin Qianqian tied up on the ground with her plaster shattered, his expression changed. He immediately untied the cloth and picked up the unconscious Lin Qianqian. He questioned Su Manyu. What are you doing? How could you treat Qianqian like this? How did the plaster on her leg shatter? Why did you tie her up? Ji Qingyuan frowned. He looked at Su Manyu with hostility. Su Manyu was confused by Ji Qingyuan's question. She couldn't help but say, she's been possessed. Shouldn't we tie her up? The longer she's possessed, the worse it is for Lin Qianqian's health. What do you want us to do? You're so hard to please. Take your Qianqian and leave. Don't blame us for everything. You're so annoying. Ji Qingyuan, I've been tolerating you. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Su Manyu wasn't polite at all. She waved her hand. Get lost. Ji Qingyuan's face turned green with anger. You're being unreasonable. You're the unreasonable one. Your whole family is unreasonable. Su Manyu immediately retorted. Ji Qingyuan carried the unconscious Lin Qianqian and left. Su Manyu was angry at Ning Shu. She said, who's the unreasonable one? How dare an unreasonable person call someone else unreasonable? Fuck. As long as it has anything to do with Lin Qianqian, I'm always so angry. Su Manyu's face was contorted. Ning Shu curled his lips and said sarcastically, it's all because you like Ji Qingyuan and Ji Qingyuan likes Lin Qianqian. You're not happy about it. That's why you're being so sarcastic. It makes my teeth ache. Su Manyu said, Zhuang Yutong, do you want to die? Can you not mock me? Can you? Ning Shu said, yes. Su Manyu was speechless. Meanwhile, Ji Qingyuan took Lin Qianqian to the hospital. After an X-ray, it was just as Ning Shu had expected. Her leg was fractured and her calf was swollen bigger than her thigh. She might even be crippled. Ji Qingyuan looked at Lin Qianqian's pale face and was furious. He went to the dormitory to look for Su Manyu. When he saw Su Manyu, Ji Qingyuan didn't say a word and directly slapped her. Su Manyu was stunned. She covered her face and stared blankly at the angry Ji Qingyuan. Why did you hit me? Ning Shu circulated her qi and pushed Ji Qingyuan forcefully, causing him to fall to the ground. Ji Qingyuan immediately groaned in pain. It was as if his buttocks had split open, and his tailbone felt as if it had been broken. This woman had a lot of strength. Ning Shu looked at Ji Qingyuan with disdain. What kind of man is he to hit a woman? Su Manyu also reacted. She looked at Ji Qingyuan sadly. Why did you hit me for no reason? Ji Qingyuan, don't go too far. Ji Qingyuan got up from the ground. He endured the pain and coldly said, Su Manyu, how could you treat Qianqian like this? You pushed Qianqian down the stairs, and today you hit her leg with the metal bed. She might be crippled. Su Manyu, I was wrong about you. I didn't expect you to be so cruel. What did I do? I didn't do anything. You're slandering me for no reason. She was hurt by a ghost. Why are you blaming me? If we hadn't saved her, she would have been dead. Ghost, it's the ghost again. I wasn't there. Who knows if you used a ghost to hurt Qianqian? Ji Qingyuan looked at Su Manyu and Ning Shu sharply. You two did such a thing, and you're blaming it on a ghost. Ji Qingyuan, what nonsense are you talking about? When did I do such a thing? You didn't push Qianqian down the stairs, Ji Qingyuan said coldly. I didn't push her at all. She fell down herself. Su Manyu was angry and innocent. Chapter 215. The moment Ji Qingyuan arrived, he hit Su Manyu. The way he looked at Su Manyu was as if they were mortal enemies. Su Manyu covered her face. My dad didn't even lay a finger on me. Who do you think you are? How dare you hit me? Ji Qingyuan, you think you can do whatever you want to me just because I like you? Ji Qingyuan glanced at Ning Shu coldly. When he was pushed by her just now, he felt like his tailbone was about to break. When he heard Su Manyu's complaint, he said, I'm doing this for Qianqian. You guys are classmates after all. Why are you so cruel? Do you know that your actions will cripple Qianqian's leg? Her leg hasn't recovered since you pushed her down the stairs. Qianqian told me before that you're always picking on her. But I didn't expect you to treat her like this. Ji Qingyuan glared at Su Manyu fiercely, almost roaring at her. Su Manyu's face darkened. I didn't push him up the stairs. I didn't do anything. It was the female ghost who pushed him down. I didn't do anything. Ji Qingyuan, you haven't investigated anything, yet you're slandering me like this. Do you believe everything Lin Qianqian says? I know Qianqian. She's kind-hearted and has a good relationship with others, but you're always picking on her. Ji Qingyuan said coldly. Su Manyu, do you think you can push everything to the female ghost? Do you think the female ghost won't come to confront you? Su Manyu, I've mistaken you for someone else. Su Manyu was so angry that her chest was about to explode. Her face was ashen. Ji Qingyuan, fuck you. I must have been blind to like someone like you. You and Lin Qianqian are a pair of bitches made in heaven. I'll say it right now. If I lay a finger on Lin Qianqian, I'll be killed by the female ghost. Su Manyu walked up to Ji Qingyuan and slapped him across the face. Who do you think you are? How dare you hit me? I'm paying you back. Su Manyu used a lot of strength. A fingerprint immediately appeared on Ji Qingyuan's face. Ji Qingyuan was in a daze, as if he hadn't recovered from the fact that Su Manyu had hit him. Ning Shu watched from the side. He felt that Su Manyu was really domineering. Ji Qingyuan used Su Manyu's affection for him, but he never reciprocated her feelings. But whenever he encountered a problem, he would order her around. It was as if Su Manyu was his servant because she liked him. Ji Qingyuan couldn't find the female ghost, and he didn't dare to look for it. However, someone had to bear the anger in his heart. Ji Qingyuan didn't care if Su Manyu was wronged or if she felt wronged. He only knew that Lin Qianqian was in such a miserable state. He was also haunted by the female ghost, and was physically and mentally exhausted. He urgently needed to vent his anger. Qianqian, and he were in a sorry state. But other than Zhang Yuyan, who jumped off a building to commit suicide, the other two looked relaxed. This made Ji Qingyuan very uncomfortable. Su Manyu, how dare you hit me? Ji Qingyuan gritted his teeth. His cheeks were trembling. His handsome face was distorted. Su Manyu took a step back. Why wouldn't I dare hit you? Su Manyu looked at Ning Shu and said fiercely, Zhuang Yutong, come with me and beat this heartless bastard up. Ji Qingyuan glanced at Ning Shu. His expression changed. His whole body felt like it was going to fall apart after being pushed by this girl. This girl was very strong. If she hit him, it would hurt a lot. If you dare to hit me, I'll make sure you can't stay in this school, Ji Qingyuan said coldly. Su Manyu sneered. Ji Qingyuan, do you really think this school is owned by your family? Do you think we can't stay here just because you say so? Ji Qingyuan snorted coldly and turned to leave. But the way he walked was a little strange. Seeing Ji Qingyuan leave, Ning Shu was very disappointed. He really wanted to beat him up. After all, Su Manyu was standing in front of him. Wah! Su Manyu wailed. She had been holding her ground in front of Ji Qingyuan, but now she was crying her heart out. Snot and tears were all over her face. Ning Shu didn't sympathize with her at all. He didn't comfort her either. Zhuang Yutong, you're so heartless. You saw me fall out of love, and you didn't even comfort me. Su Manyu wiped her snot with a tissue. Ning Shu's expression was full of disdain. You haven't even fallen in love yet. Su Manyu was speechless. Do you think Lin Qianqian is really that good? Su Manyu asked unwillingly. Ning Shu said, You've already asked this question countless times. In Ji Qingyuan's heart, Lin Qianqian is 1,000 times better than you. Su Manyu felt like she had been shot in the heart. It hurts. Ning Shu looked at Su Manyu's despondent expression and couldn't help but say, All men in the world are right. There are plenty of men better than Ji Qingyuan. Why don't you find someone you like? Why let Ji Qingyuan ruin you? Su Manyu wiped her snot. Fuck. I must find someone better than Ji Qingyuan. You haven't met enough men yet. When you leave school, you'll realize that there are plenty of men who are more mature and outstanding than Ji Qingyuan. Ning Shu patted Su Manyu's shoulder. Su Manyu looked at Ning Shu from the corner of her eyes and said disdainfully, You sound like you've met a lot of men. I've met a lot of men, but they're all sick. Ning Shu was annoyed that Ji Qingyuan kept coming to their dormitory. He went straight to the dormitory management to complain that the girls in their dormitory had brought their boyfriends to spend the night in the dormitory. Moreover, the boys often came to the dormitory. The dormitory management teacher immediately said that no boys were allowed to enter the dormitory in the future. Ning Shu and Su Manyu's relationship became better and better. She often gave her clothes to Ning Shu to wear, but Ning Shu didn't want them. Besides, Su Manyu was a head taller than her. She couldn't wear Su Manyu's clothes at all. Sometimes they would share cosmetics and go shopping together. They were developing into best friends. Su Manyu's words were direct and vicious. She bluntly said that Ning Shu's clothes were old-fashioned, and that she didn't look good. Anyway, she was very picky. She degraded Ning Shu as if she was worthless. Ning Shu didn't pay any attention to her. If it were someone else with a small heart, they would probably be angered to tears by this girl. Although Su Manyu disliked Ning Shu, when they went out, she still held hands with Ning Shu. Ning Shu thought that she was afraid of ghosts. Ji Qingyuan said that he wanted the Taoist priest to come and get rid of the ghost, but he didn't come for a long time. Moreover, the female ghost didn't appear for a long time. It made Ning Shu feel that the female ghost had disappeared. This kind of peaceful school life made Ning Shu feel that it was too strange. When the female ghost was around, he was on tenterhooks. Now that the female ghost didn't appear, he was still on tenterhooks. Could it be that Ji Qingyuan had made a fool of himself in front of her and Su Manyu last time, and decided not to get rid of the ghost first to scare them? Chapter 216. Su Manyu held onto Ning Shu's arm as the two of them walked out of the dormitory. As soon as they walked out of the dormitory, someone blocked their path. Ning Shu and Su Manyu saw this and turned their heads away at the same time. Su Manyu said, Why is such an ugly person blocking our path? Ning Shu said, No. Song Ming, whose face was full of pimples, looked at the arrogant Su Manyu. Ning Shu said, Zhuang Yutong, I have something to talk to you about. Do we know each other? Ning Shu raised his fist. I said that I would beat you up every time I see you. Song Ming's face twitched as if she had thought of something. Ning Shu said, Are you still angry? I was in the wrong last time. Besides, you punished me. Ning Shu was speechless. What's wrong with this idiot? Su Manyu looked him up and down with an arrogant gaze. She brushed her hair with her hand and said with disdain, Your figure is not good. Your face is too ugly. You have too many pimples. Your face is too oily. You didn't wash your face when you went out. Your hair is dirty and oily. Your body smells like instant noodles. Your socks are tied to your pants, and your shoes are covered in mud. Su Manyu raised her eyebrows and looked at Ning Shu. She asked, Is this your man? Zhuang Yutong, I really admire your taste. You usually laugh at me. TSK. Ning Shu was speechless. Song Ming's face flashed with all kinds of colors after Su Manyu's words. It was as if a rainbow had shone on her face. She wanted to crawl into a hole and hide. Song Ming hated Ning Shu even more in his heart. He couldn't wait to have sex with Ning Shu right now and then abandon her. Previously, Song Ming was still interested in this girl, who came from the corner of the mountain. Song Ming knew that he was not good-looking and was not considered rich. The girls in the university looked down on him, so Song Ming could only lower himself and set his sights on Zhuang Yutong. The other girls were all dressed very fashionably and looked good. But Zhuang Yutong was dressed in gray and looked like an ugly duckling. She had no friends and was all alone. Song Ming felt that such a girl should be easier to pursue and deceive than those vain girls. However, he didn't expect her to be so fierce and always go for his crotch. As soon as Song Ming met Zhuang Yutong's cold eyes, he knew that this girl was not to be trifled with. Song Ming didn't want to have anything to do with Zhuang Yutong anymore. However, Ji Qingyuan had found him and asked him to chase after Zhuang Yutong. If he could make Zhuang Yutong suffer and create a scandal, such as getting pregnant, being expelled from school, or being abandoned by him, Ji Qingyuan would let him directly enter Ji Qingyuan's family company after graduation. He could also pick up women. Now that he had a job after graduation, Song Ming could only bite the bullet. Two pairs of cold eyes looked at him. Song Ming was so nervous that he couldn't even speak. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Ning Shu said gently, "Zhuang Yutong, I have something to tell you. Let's go to the side and talk." Su Manyu held onto Ning Shu's arm and flicked her nails. She said arrogantly, "Go to the side and talk? Is there something that I can't listen to?" Song Ming's eyes hurt from Su Manyu's arrogant look. He just looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at Song Ming coldly. Scram. Song Ming's face trembled. In the end, he forced out a smile, making his face even more unsightly. He almost gritted his teeth. Ning Shu said gently, "I'll come back tomorrow." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and watched Song Ming run away as if his butt was on fire. "Oh my god, my eyes are going blind. I need to wash my eyes." Su Manyu took out eye drops from her bag. She looked up at Ning Shu with watery eyes. Ning Shu gave her a thumbs up. "Zhuang Yutong, your taste really surprised me. I didn't expect you to like this type of man." Ning Shu curled his lips. "This man wants to fuck me. He thinks I'm a village kid who doesn't know anything." Su Manyu looked at him with disdain. He doesn't even look at himself. "Zhuang Yutong, don't be taken away by a man like this. Otherwise, when I see you in the future, I'll think of you rolling around with him." TSK, I'm disgusted. Ning Shu was speechless. However, for some reason, Song Ming went to the girls' dormitory every day to deliver flowers. Every time, he would look at Ning Shu with affectionate eyes. This made Su Manyu, who was beside Ning Shu, extremely disgusted. Every time Su Manyu saw Song Ming, she would attack Song Ming in all aspects. For example, she would say that the roses were from yesterday, and that they could be bought at half price. She would also mock Song Ming for having 10 pairs of socks that cost $10. She would throw them away after wearing them once and never wash them. She would also say that the pimples on Song Ming's face had turned white, and that it was time to squeeze them. She would also say that Song Ming was going bald, and that his kidneys were too weak. Song Ming basically ran away with his tail between his legs. However, he still came the next day. Some meddlesome people asked Ning Shu to accept Song Ming. Song Ming really liked her. Ning Shu just spat. He didn't know what kind of power was supporting Song Ming to go to the girls' dormitory every day to embarrass himself. He was mocked by Su Manyu every day, and even had a basin of water poured by Su Manyu. Needless to say, he was so embarrassed and pitiful. However, Ning Shu and Su Manyu felt that something wasn't right. Ning Shu knew that he wasn't some peerless beauty. For someone to like him so much, it had to be him. With his pitiful 3 points of charm, Ning Shu didn't think that he was loved by everyone. Su Manyu found someone to investigate, and found out that it was Ji Qingyuan's idea. She was so angry that she wanted to flip the house open. Ning Shu said angrily, "I didn't expect Ji Qingyuan to be such a despicable person. He actually used such a method to take revenge on you." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Last time, she had pushed Ji Qingyuan. It seemed that Ji Qingyuan was holding a grudge. This method was actually quite vicious. It ruined someone's reputation and caused her to be abandoned. If she really likes Song Ming, how painful would it be for her to be cheated by Song Ming and then abandoned by him? Ning Shu was speechless. Why didn't he find a handsome guy to chase her? She wasn't blind. It could be said that 99% of girls wouldn't choose Song Ming. Actually, Ji Qingyuan had asked Song Ming to disgust her. Ning Shu admitted that she was disgusted. Seeing Song Ming's serious and affectionate expression, Su Manyu and Ning Shu almost vomited on his face. It was extremely disgusting. Why don't I find someone to beat him up? Don't let him come again. I can't take it anymore. Su Manyu frowned and said impatiently, there's no female ghost. And now there's such a person. I really can't take it anymore. When Zhuang Yutong is with you, there's always something that changes my worldview. You're just too ugly. Why don't you tidy yourself up and attract such a disgusting person? Ning Shu said indifferently, you tidy yourself up well and are beautiful. The person you like isn't someone like Ji Qingyuan. Ahem. Su Manyu coughed. Ji Qingyuan's family is in the business. When doing business, sometimes you only care about the results and not the process. As long as the results are achieved, the means are secondary. Chapter 217. Su Manyu and Ning Shu decided to think of a way to stop Song Ming from bothering them once and for all. Su Manyu said that they should give him a taste of his own medicine and kick him out of school. Ning Shu spun the spirit pearl in his hand. He thought for a moment and said to Su Manyu, what if he sees a ghost? See a ghost? Su Manyu suddenly realized. She took out the cow's tears and said, I'll scare this bastard to death. That night, Ning Shu asked Song Ming to meet him at the female dormitory. Song Ming came excitedly. He thought that Su Manyu had finally been won over by his romantic attacks. Moreover, it was in the middle of the night. He was glowing with excitement. When he arrived at the dormitory, he saw two people standing under the streetlight. When he saw Su Manyu, Song Ming's heart suddenly became timid. Su Manyu's mouth was poisonous, and her family was rich. She pressured him until he couldn't breathe. Song Ming tidied up his clothes and immediately put on a gentle smile. It was as if he had put on a fake mask, but there was a disgusting desire in his eyes. Song Ming walked in front of Ning Shu and immediately reached out to grab Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu's face was cold as he took a step back. Song Ming cursed in his heart. She was looking for a man in the middle of the night, and now she was pretending to be reserved. Yutong, why are you looking for me so late at night? Song Ming asked gently. Su Manyu immediately said, you've been chasing Yutong for a while now. When Song Ming heard Su Manyu's words, his heart jumped. Su Manyu didn't have anything good to say. I really like Yutong. I think she's the only woman I like in my life. Song Ming looked at Ning Shu and said gently. Su Manyu's face turned green, and she was about to vomit. Ning Shu saw Su Manyu's face and laughed unkindly. He said to Song Ming, tonight we asked you to play a game with us. Are you interested? Song Ming saw the smile on Ning Shu's face. This country bumpkin looked quite good when he smiled. She rarely smiled, and when she faced him, she was always as cold as ice. When she suddenly smiled like this, it gave people a stunning feeling. Song Ming suddenly felt that it was worth it to chase after this country bumpkin. He decided to abandon her later. Playing a game so late? Song Ming immediately felt her abdomen heat up as hot blood rushed to her face. She felt that the acne on her face was a little itchy. Song Ming controlled herself from scratching her face. The three of us are playing a game? Song Ming looked at the arrogant and beautiful Su Manyu. Although he felt that it was wishful thinking, he could not help but fantasize. 3 people, hee. Su Manyu saw the expression on Song Ming's face. The way he looked at her was extremely obscene. Su Manyu wanted to dig his eyes out. She had never seen such a disgusting man. He was a toad who wanted to eat swan meat. He was chasing after Zhuang Yutong, and he actually looked at her with such a gaze. Ning Shu turned his eyes away and did not look at Song Ming's rippling eyes. This kind of man was simply shameless to the extreme. Close your eyes. We are going to play a game. Su Manyu gritted her teeth and laughed coldly at Song Ming. Song Ming looked at Su Manyu's smile and immediately closed his eyes. His heart was so excited that it was pounding. A huge firework of surprise exploded in his mind. Suddenly, something cold was smeared on his eyelids. He wanted to open his eyes, but he heard Su Manyu's voice. Wait a minute. Don't open your eyes so quickly. Song Ming's heart rippled. He closed his eyes and did not open them. Okay, open your eyes. Ning Shu said calmly. Song Ming quickly opened his eyes. He felt that his eyes were a little uncomfortable. He closed them again and opened them again. He saw a ferocious-looking ghost walk past him. Song Ming screamed and saw another ghost coming at his neck. It was a female ghost. Song Ming's eyes rolled back, and he almost fainted. He let out a high-pitched scream. It was hard to imagine that a boy could make such a high-pitched scream. However, he did not feel any pain when the ghost grabbed his neck. There were ghosts all around him, and some of them were wrapped around his body. "Ghost, there's a ghost!" Song Ming screamed, and wanted to hide behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu kicked her away. Su Manyu looked at Song Ming's face that was distorted with fear. She was even in a very good mood and laughed loudly. Song Ming heard Su Manyu laughing. Even Zhuang Yutong had a smile on her face. They were laughing. They were demons. Another ghost pounced at him. Song Ming scrambled and ran away. As he ran, he screamed, "Ghost, there's a ghost!" The whole school was filled with his screams. How shameless. Su Manyu's face was full of disdain. Su Manyu was bold now. When she saw that someone had seen a ghost, she actually had the heart to mock him. Ning Shu also curled his lips. This kind of person has evil intentions. They attract the most ghosts. Okay, let's go to sleep. The matter is finally resolved. Su Manyu yawned and held Ning Shu's arm. She suddenly said, "I know how to choose my husband in the future." "How to choose?" Ning Shu asked curiously. Su Manyu puffed out her chest and said, "If they want to pursue me, they have to first smear cow tears on their eyes. Let's see if they're afraid of ghosts." Ning Shu was speechless. Normal people would have psychological trauma. Ning Shu looked at Su Manyu. "You're destined to be alone for the rest of your life. If you're even afraid of ghosts, what right do you have to be my man?" Su Manyu said with conviction. Ning Shu was speechless. This logic. What was the connection between being your man and being afraid of ghosts? The next day, Song Ming didn't harass Ning Shu again. When he saw Ning Shu and Su Manyu, he took a detour. It was as if Ning Shu and Su Manyu were evil ghosts. When Su Manyu saw Song Ming, she even smiled very brightly at him. Her smile was like a flower. However, when Song Ming saw Su Manyu's smile, he immediately jumped up in fright. When Song Ming looked at Su Manyu now, he felt that Su Manyu's face was twisted and ferocious. It was as if an evil ghost was smiling at him. Seeing Song Ming like this, Su Manyu smiled even brighter at him. Song Ming ran even faster. Now Song Ming was like a god. He kept saying that there were ghosts. One moment, he said that there were ghosts in the bathroom. Then, he said that there were ghosts in the bed. He even slept with people at night. It was very annoying. After the cow tears dried up, Song Ming couldn't see ghosts anymore. However, no matter where he went, he felt that there were ghosts in the place. Song Ming couldn't take it anymore and transferred schools. When she heard that Song Ming had left, Su Manyu looked at him with disdain. How long has it been? He hasn't even met a powerful female ghost. He probably scared himself to death before he did anything. Ning Shu drank his soy milk and said to Su Manyu, "Do you think that the female ghost hasn't appeared in such a long time? Could it have been subdued by the Taoist priest that Ji Qingyuan hired?" "I don't know." Su Manyu shook her head. "This ghost is so annoying. What's wrong with Ji Qingyuan? He's not telling us anything. Could it be that the female ghost has gone to pester Lin Qianqian? That better be the case. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. He should go look for Lin Qianqian." Su Manyu gloated. Chapter 218. Lin Qianqian, whom Su Manyu had been talking about, had returned. On the way back, Ning Shu and Su Manyu bumped into Lin Qianqian lying on a stretcher. Lin Qianqian was being carried into the dorm. Ning Shu frowned. Su Manyu asked Ning Shu, "Why are they carrying her into the dorm looking like she's about to die?" Ning Shu shook his head and looked at Ji Qingyuan's back. He didn't understand what the male and female leads were doing. Ning Shu followed him back to the dorm and saw Lin Qianqian sitting in a wheelchair. Lin Qianqian's face was very thin, very thin. She was wearing a cotton-padded jacket in the middle of summer. It was obvious that the yin energy had entered her body. Ji Qingyuan looked at Lin Qianqian with concern. Lin Qianqian shook her head obediently and said, "Qingyuan, I'm fine. Don't worry, the evil ghost will be eliminated soon." Ji Qingyuan held Lin Qianqian's hand. Ning Shu looked at the plaster cast on Lin Qianqian's leg and thought that Ji Qingyuan must be sick in the head. His leg was already injured to this extent, yet he still brought it back to the dormitory. Did Lin Qianqian not want her legs anymore? Zhuang Yutong, let's go find the dorm manager to change rooms. We can't be in the same dorm as this White Lotus. If anything happens, we'll be the unlucky ones. Su Manyu looked at him sarcastically. She grabbed Ning Shu's hand and turned to leave the dorm. Ji Qingyuan's face was pale. He didn't say anything. Instead, it was Lin Qianqian in the wheelchair who spoke. Lin Qianqian's voice was very weak. Su Manyu, Zhuang Yutong, wait a minute. Ning Shu turned to look at Lin Qianqian. He wanted to know what she wanted to say. Have you been harassed by a female ghost recently? Lin Qianqian asked the two of them. Su Manyu was the first to speak. It's been calm. Everything is fine. Su Manyu could tell that Lin Qianqian wasn't doing well at all, so she wanted to provoke her. Lin Qianqian noticed that Ning Shu and Su Manyu's complexions were quite good. Their complexions were rosy, and they seemed to be eating well and sleeping well. Even the country bumpkin Zhuang Yutong had become prettier recently. As expected, Lin Qianqian's heart sank. While she was in the hospital, the female ghost kept harassing her. She didn't know what to do. Although she had the talisman from the Taoist priest to protect her, every now and then, she would be scared to death. Ji Qingyuan wanted to take her home, but Ji Qingyuan's father wouldn't let her in, saying that he was afraid of bringing dirty things back. Lin Qianqian wanted to stay by the Taoist priest's side, but the priest was very arrogant and only lived in the Ji family's villa. However, Ji Qingyuan's father didn't allow her to stay with the Ji family. This made Lin Qianqian feel very hurt. Ji Qingyuan tried to fight for her to stay with him twice before giving up. Lin Qianqian thought that she might as well go back to the dormitory. The female ghost kept pestering her. Lin Qianqian thought that since it was an evil spirit that everyone had attracted, they should all deal with it together. But now that she saw that Su Manyu and Ning Shu were doing so well, while she was the only one in such a pitiful state, Lin Qianqian's heart ached. Even her legs hurt. Ji Qingyuan said to Lin Qianqian, "Qianqian, let's go back to the hospital. The doctor said that you have to take good care of your legs. Otherwise, you might get into trouble." Lin Qianqian shook her head. "I'm fine in the dormitory." Lin Qianqian also felt a little resentful towards Ji Qingyuan, so she wanted to go back to the dormitory in a fit of pique. Ji Qingyuan was helpless. He could only say to Su Manyu, "Manyu, I'm sorry about what happened last time. I was too worried and anxious. That's why I did that to you. I hope you can forgive me." Lin Qianqian immediately asked, "Qingyuan, what did you do to Su Manyu?" Her tone was as if she was catching her in the act. She looked at Su Manyu with an unfriendly gaze. She felt that Su Manyu had seduced her boyfriend while she was in the hospital. During this time, Lin Qianqian had been under a lot of psychological pressure. The doctor had diagnosed that she might be crippled. Lin Qianqian couldn't imagine what it would be like to be crippled. Ji Qingyuan was so handsome. Would he still be with her? Would he still be with a crippled person like her? Even though Ji Qingyuan said that he loved her, Lin Qianqian still felt uneasy. She felt that she was really unlucky. Her life was so gloomy. Now that she heard Ji Qingyuan apologize to Su Manyu, Lin Qianqian felt like her world was about to collapse. "What did you guys do?" Lin Qianqian asked Ji Qingyuan emotionally as her body trembled. Ji Qingyuan immediately squatted down to comfort Lin Qianqian. "There's nothing going on between Su Manyu and me. You should know that there's nothing going on between us. The person I like has always been you." Lin Qianqian continued to ask, "Then what are you guys talking about?" "Previously, because of you, I hit Su Manyu," Ji Qingyuan explained. Lin Qianqian finally let out a sigh of relief. A smile even appeared on her face as she said to Su Manyu, "Manyu, I apologize on behalf of Qingyuan. Qingyuan cares too much about me. He was too emotional when he saw that something had happened to me. That's why he hit you." Su Manyu was speechless. Su Manyu's face twitched. She didn't know what expression to make. On the other hand, Ning Shu felt that there was something wrong with Lin Qianqian's emotions. In the past, Lin Qianqian was youthful and lively, but now Lin Qianqian was very sharp. Her entire body was covered in thorns. Even the slightest movement would cause Lin Qianqian's emotions to fluctuate. Now Lin Qianqian felt inferior. She felt inferior in front of Ji Qingyuan, but she couldn't leave him. She used sharp questions to test Ji Qingyuan's love for her. She didn't know how long Ji Qingyuan could hold back. Ji Qingyuan rubbed his forehead and said to Su Manyu, "Manyu, can you help me take care of Qianqian? Don't, please don't. If anything happens again, I'll be slapped again. Ji Qingyuan, you underestimate me too much. I, Su Manyu, can like you, but if I don't like you, you're nothing. You hit me, and now you want to say a few words that don't hurt me, and you want to treat me like your mother? Do I look that cheap?" Su Manyu waved her hand. "I'm going to change dorms now. I won't even touch Lin Qianqian. If something happens, we'll be blamed." Su Manyu had seen through Ji Qingyuan. Seeing him apologize unwillingly, she knew what he was thinking. He had secretly found someone to take revenge on Zhuang Yutong. No one liked despicable and shameless people. Ji Qingyuan was despicable and shameless. Ji Qingyuan took a deep breath and said to Lin Qianqian, "Qianqian, let's go back to the hospital." Lin Qianqian said in a fit of pique, "I don't want to go back. What's the point of going back? I'll still be haunted by ghosts. I might as well stay in the dorm." "But what about your leg?" Ji Qingyuan comforted her softly. "Qianqian, listen to me. This time, I'll get the priest to give you something to protect yourself. It'll be fine." Lin Qianqian shook her head. "I'm not going back to the hospital." Ning Shu could tell that the female ghost had been haunting Lin Qianqian. The plot had taken a turn. Now that Ning Shu had the spirit pearl in his hands, it was a deterrent to the female ghost. Therefore, it had been haunting Lin Qianqian, whose leg was injured. Chapter 219. Ji Qingyuan tried his best to persuade Lin Qianqian to go back to the hospital. He was afraid that Lin Qianqian would regret it for the rest of her life if her leg couldn't be treated in the dormitory. However, Lin Qianqian was being haunted by the ghost and was on the verge of breaking down. She didn't want to stay in the hospital alone. Her emotions had been tense the whole time. The injury on her leg, Ji Qingyuan's feelings, and all kinds of things were weighing on her. Lin Qianqian couldn't take it anymore. She even had a secret thought. Why did this woman keep pestering her? Why did she keep pestering her? Why didn't she pester the other two people in the dormitory? Everyone was afraid together. Why haven't you gotten rid of the ghost? Didn't you go to the Taoist priest? Ning Shu asked. His girlfriend had been tortured to such a state. Why hadn't they gotten rid of the ghost? Ji Qingyuan originally didn't want to talk to Ning Shu, but he remembered that his girlfriend still needed them to take care of her. So he said, "The Taoist priest said that we need to get rid of the ghost when the yang energy is at its strongest. That's when the ghost is weaker." Ning Shu was speechless. Didn't they know that the ghost could devour other souls? Could it strengthen their own souls? The longer they delayed, the more the ghost would slowly recover, and more people would die. Did it have to be like in the plot? After she and Su Manyu died, Lin Qianqian was the only one left. Ning Shu was very cautious. This was the plot. It seemed that she and Su Manyu had to be careful. She didn't want to die like in the plot. She just wanted to help Zhuang Yutong get through this period. If she died, the mission would fail. Ji Qingyuan looked at Ning Shu and said sincerely, "Please take care of Qianqian. I'm a guy. It's not good for me to go to the girls' dormitory." Ji Qingyuan's eyes were very good-looking. They were deep with a little starlight. When he looked at someone, it was as if you were the whole world. It made people's hearts pound. Ning Shu's mind was thinking about how this brat had secretly asked that disgusting man, Song Ming, to cheat on her feelings. Ning Shu didn't like this guy at all. She said directly, "I want to change dormitory with Man Yu." Ji Qingyuan's face twitched. He felt humiliated. He had already lowered his voice, but Lin Qianqian still rejected him. Su Manyu pulled Ning Shu and left. She found the dormitory management teacher to change their dormitory. In the end, they were changed to the dormitory next door. Ning Shu thought about it and said, "Why don't we not change dorms? We are the ones who are haunted by ghosts. What if the female ghost haunts other people in the dorm? That shouldn't be the case. She's the one who pestered the 4 people in our dormitory. She probably won't kill the girls in the other dormitory." Ning Shu shook his head. Who could say for sure? This female ghost was obviously an evil spirit that devoured souls. What principles could she have? Ning Shu was here to counterattack, but he couldn't implicate the innocent. Everyone's life was precious, and it was shameful and vicious to take someone's life for no reason. In the end, Su Yu said, "I'll take responsibility for my own actions. Let's just go back." In the end, Ning Shu and Su Yu went back. When Lin Qianqian saw Ning Shu and Su Yu, surprise flashed across her face. She was surprised that the two of them had returned. Ji Qingyuan paid a high price to hire 2 caregivers to take care of Lin Qianqian in the dormitory. But the 2 caregivers didn't even want to be paid the next day. Scary things always happened at night. Although Lin Qianqian returned to the dormitory, the female ghost followed her like a shadow. Because Ning Shu was in the dormitory, the female ghost didn't dare to enter the room. She only roared at Lin Qianqian from the window. The 2 caregivers were scared to death. The next day, they packed their things and left. Ning Shu held the spirit orb in his hand. Su Yu seemed to have gotten used to this situation. She was still able to fall asleep. Lin Qianqian basically didn't sleep the whole night. When she saw Su Yu wake up and stretch her back, looking much better, Lin Qianqian felt as if something was raking her heart. It was very painful. She couldn't even remember the last time she slept soundly. Her legs hurt so much that every second felt unbearable. Lin Qianqian looked at Su Yu and Ning Shu with an unfriendly gaze. Ever since Su Yu pushed her down the stairs, Lin Qianqian felt as if her life had completely changed. It was as if she had fallen into hell. Why did Lin Qianqian and the angry evil spirit only follow her? Why were they so tolerant of Zhuang Yutang and Su Yu? Lin Qianqian hated this evil spirit. She was also jealous of the 2 people who were living leisurely. She was struggling in hell while they were enjoying themselves. Su Yu, why did you push me down the stairs? If you hadn't, I wouldn't be in such a sorry state right now, Lin Qianqian suddenly said. Lin Qianqian's voice was hoarse and full of resentment. Ning Shu was stunned at first. He looked into Lin Qianqian's deep eyes. Lin Qianqian's eyes had been lively before. Her eyebrows were full of spirit, but now she was very deep. Lin Qianqian, are you looking for trouble this early in the morning? I already said that I didn't push you. You were the one who fell down the stairs, Su Yu said coldly. Su Yu said coldly, I'll pay you the medical fees. But just because I'm giving you money doesn't mean that I'm the one who did it. I'm just pitying you. Instead of blaming me, why don't you blame yourself for suggesting the pin spirit game? If it weren't for the pin spirit game, how could this have happened? This is all your own fault. Don't push all the blame onto me. Su Yu won't buy it. Su Yu's expression was cold. She wasn't polite to Lin Qianqian. Don't forget how Zhang Yiyan died. She was killed by a ghost. You indirectly caused her death. What right do you have to blame me? Lin Qianqian's face turned even paler. What evidence do you have to prove that Zhang Yiyan was killed by a ghost? Zhang Yiyan had suicidal tendencies. She was already under the influence of the unspoken rules. You and Ji Qingyuan are a pair of bitches. You always like to push the blame onto others, Su Yu said coldly. Lin Qianqian, don't think that I won't do anything to you just because you're disabled. If anything happens to you, I'll still be fine. Don't mess with me. Don't think that I won't do anything to you just because you have Ji Qingyuan to back you up. Ji Qingyuan's family is rich, and so is mine. Su Yu really looked like a spoiled brat. Ning Shu watched as Su Yu made Lin Qianqian tremble in anger. What a vicious female supporting character. I don't want your money. I don't want your stinky money. Lin Qianqian gripped the wheelchair handle so hard that her knuckles turned white. Su Yu shrugged nonchalantly. Forget it if you don't want it. My family's money doesn't grow on trees. I'd rather give it to Zhuang Yutang than give it to you. I'd rather buy some clothes for her. Ning Shu thought. You guys can talk. Why are you dragging me into this? She was just a bystander. Lin Qianqian glanced at Ning Shu and said sarcastically, You're just a bootlicker. Ning Shu was speechless. You're injured like this, and you still care about whether I'm a bootlicker or not. You really have nothing better to do, Ning Shu said calmly. It was exciting to go against the female lead like this. Chapter 220. When Su Yu and Lin Qianqian started arguing, Ji Qingyuan came over. Ji Qingyuan saw that Lin Qianqian's expression was extremely bad, and then saw the aggressive Su Manyu and Ning Shu. He knew his girlfriend had been wronged. Ji Qingyuan wanted Lin Qianqian to move out. Why bother staying in the dorm? But Lin Qianqian was determined to stay. She was very stubborn. Ji Qingyuan couldn't figure out why she was staying. It was meaningless. Lin Qianqian said to Ji Qingyuan, "If I want to leave, I want to go to your house and stay with the priest." Ji Qingyuan's face immediately showed signs of hesitation. Seeing Ji Qingyuan like this, Lin Qianqian's expression darkened. She laughed at herself and said, "I knew it would be like this. Ji Qingyuan, don't you love Lin Qianqian a lot? What's wrong with bringing her to your house to stay?" Su Manyu added fuel to the fire. Hearing Su Manyu's words, Lin Qianqian's expression darkened even more. She looked gloomy. In addition, Lin Qianqian had lost a lot of weight recently. Even her cheekbones were showing. She no longer looked as lively and sweet as before. "Su Manyu, would it kill you to stop talking?" Ji Qingyuan couldn't help but scold Su Manyu in a low voice. Ning Shu said, "Let's go eat." Su Manyu pursed her lips and followed Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, "Do you still have feelings for Ji Qingyuan? Why are you trying to drive a wedge between them? Don't get involved." "I don't like Ji Qingyuan anymore. Let him and Lin Qianqian love and hate each other. Seeing them hurt each other makes me happy," Su Manyu said darkly. Ning Shu was speechless. She was indeed a vicious female supporting character, who couldn't stand seeing the male and female lead happy. After Ning Shu and Su Manyu finished eating, they returned to the dorm. Lin Qianqian was still there, but Ji Qingyuan had already left. Lin Qianqian's eyes were red. She had obviously cried. When she saw Ning Shu and Su Manyu enter, she quickly wiped her tears. Su Manyu scoffed and ignored Lin Qianqian. Ning Shu felt that the soul pearl was really a good thing. She and Su Manyu, who were supposed to die, were still alive. Because she and Su Manyu didn't die, there was almost no development in the plot. The normal development was that Zhang Yuyan died, Su Manyu became a vegetable, and Zhuang Yutong fell into the artificial lake. Then, the Taoist priest destroyed the female ghost. However, the female ghost kept pestering the female lead, causing bad luck to befall the female lead. The female lead in the story basically didn't suffer much, but because of the soul orb, the development of the story deviated a little, and the female lead had to bear more of the suffering. Ning Shu didn't feel anything. The 3 people in the plot had all died. 3 fresh lives had been snuffed out in an instant. But at least Lin Qianqian was still alive. She could feel pain and breathe. There was a spread of breakfast on the table in front of Lin Qianqian, but she hadn't touched it. Ning Shu had no idea why Lin Qianqian was suffering. After all, nothing was more important than eating and resting well. Especially now that the Yin energy had entered Lin Qianqian's body. Her resistance was even weaker. If she still didn't eat, she'd be tired of living. Lin Qianqian glanced at Ning Shu and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Zhuang Yutong, can you give me some of the medicine you and Su Manyu drank?" Ning Shu looked at Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian nervously tightened her coat. She bit her blue lips and asked, "You don't have any?" Ning Shu nodded and said, "Yes, I'll make some for you." Su Manyu pouted and didn't say anything. Ning Shu handed the medicine to Lin Qianqian, who slowly drank it. Ji Qingyuan didn't want his girlfriend to suffer. He went home and begged the Taoist priest again and again. Finally, the Taoist priest destroyed the female ghost. Ji Qingyuan was very dissatisfied with this ox-nosed old Taoist. If he wanted to exterminate a ghost, then exterminate a ghost. Why did he have to be so arrogant? The Ji family treated him with good food and drink, treating him as an honored guest. However, this Taoist priest was very arrogant, which made Ji Qingyuan very dissatisfied. But now that he had a favor to ask, Ji Qingyuan could only suppress his dissatisfaction. The dormitory was quiet for a few days. The female ghost didn't come out and didn't bother Lin Qianqian anymore. Lin Qianqian slept well for a few days, and her complexion looked better. But Ning Shu was still scared. He was sweating when he held the spirit orb. This feeling was like the calm before the storm. It was dark and windy outside the dormitory. There wasn't a trace of wind, and the surroundings were especially quiet. It was so quiet that it was almost dead. Ning Shu felt even more scared. He nudged Su Manyu, who was fast asleep, and said, "Stop sleeping." "What's wrong?" Su Manyu's voice was nasal and sleepy. "It's so late. Shouldn't you be sleeping?" Ning Shu whispered. "I don't feel good. Stop sleeping." "Okay." Su Manyu yawned. Ning Shu felt that his surroundings were getting darker and darker. Gradually, the whole world seemed to be immersed in thick black ink. Ning Shu reached out his hand, but he couldn't see his fingers. He looked out the window, but there was no light at all. Ning Shu clutched the spirit orb tightly. He felt like he couldn't breathe in the darkness. Su Manyu said with difficulty, "Yutong, I feel like I can't breathe." "Me too. What's going on?" Ning Shu felt that the female ghost had come in, and there was no sign of life at all. Was she trying to suffocate them to death in this room? Gah! There was movement on Lin Qianqian's bed. It was especially obvious in the dead silence of the room. Then, he heard heavy footsteps. Lin Qianqian got up. With the condition of Lin Qianqian's legs, she couldn't stand up at all. Plus, he didn't hear Lin Qianqian's pained cries. Fuck, she's possessed Lin Qianqian's body again. This female ghost must be addicted to Lin Qianqian's body. She's always on Lin Qianqian. Ning Shu felt for the flashlight at the head of the bed. He turned it on and pointed it at the door. He saw Lin Qianqian walking out of the room. Ning Shu quickly nudged Su Manyu and shouted, "Lin Qianqian is possessed." Ning Shu quickly jumped off the bed and chased after Lin Qianqian. Su Manyu quickly shouted, "Zhuang Yutong, wait for me. I can't see." Su Manyu quickly climbed down from the bed. Ning Shu chased after her. Ning Shu ran very fast. He only caught up when they were out of the door. Lin Qianqian turned her head and looked at Ning Shu coldly. She unlocked the door and walked out with a squeak. Ning Shu ran over and grabbed Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian threw Ning Shu off with all her strength. Ning Shu was thrown over. He quickly used his qi to stabilize his body. His expression changed slightly. He felt that this female ghost had become more powerful. "Zhuang Yutong, Yutong." Su Manyu caught up. She stood beside Ning Shu panting. She looked at Lin Qianqian, who was covered in black aura. Su Manyu shivered at the vicious look in her eyes. She looked away. "If you continue to follow me, you'll die." Lin Qianqian's voice was hoarse and sharp. It sounded like nails scratching on a blackboard. It was unpleasant to the ear. Chapter 221. Lin Qianqian's face was twisted. When she spoke, it was as if her throat had been torn. Lin Qianqian looked at Ning Shu coldly with a hint of fear in her eyes. She took a step towards Ning Shu, but then stopped. Su Manyu was so scared that she hid behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt the spirit orb in his hand tremble, as if it was excited that the spirit in front of it was very strong. Lin Qianqian was very afraid of the spirit orb in Ning Shu's hand. She snorted coldly and suddenly, a strong wind blew around them. Then, she lifted her leg and kicked at the street lamp on the side of the road. Then the plaster on her leg broke. How painful was that? Lin Qianqian broke the plaster on her leg and flew away. In the blink of an eye, she was gone. She flew away? Flew. Su Manyu's eyes were blank. Am I seeing things? She can fly after being possessed? Su Manyu patted her chest. It's good that she's gone. Oh my god, I was scared to death. Zhuang Yutong, I feel that the ghost is quite afraid of you. Why? Zhuang Yutong asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu ignored Zhuang Yutong and frowned. Where was the ghost going? Do you know where Ji Qingyuan's house is? Ning Shu could only think of Lin Qianqian going to find Ji Qingyuan. Su Manyu nodded. I know. Ah, what are we doing? Where are we going in the middle of the night? Ning Shu pulled Su Manyu away and said, We're going to Ji Qingyuan's house. Lin Qianqian went to find him. I'm not going. It's such a dangerous event. I'm not going. Su Manyu wanted to go back, but Ning Shu dragged her away. Damn, Zhuang Yutong, you're a freakishly strong woman. By the time Ning Shu and Su Manyu arrived at Ji Qingyuan's house, the two parties had already started fighting. Lin Qianqian was fighting against a man wearing a Taoist robe with his hair in a bun and holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. He looked exactly like a Taoist priest in ancient times. At that moment, Ji Qingyuan was standing next to an indifferent man. This man looked a lot like Ji Qingyuan and was most likely Ji Qingyuan's father. He stood at the entrance of the villa and looked at Lin Qianqian, who was standing not too far away. His face was filled with disgust. On the other hand, Ji Qingyuan's face was filled with worry and despair. His gaze was focused on Lin Qianqian's legs. The cast on her legs had already shattered. Now that the female ghost was torturing her legs, Lin Qianqian's legs really couldn't be saved. Get lost, ox-nosed old Taoist. Lin Qianqian roared at the old Taoist priest with hatred. Every time the female ghost became agitated, the black aura around her became thicker. Lin Qianqian's entire face seemed to be shrouded in black smoke, and her face couldn't be seen clearly. You're an evil creature to begin with. Today I'll destroy your soul. The old Taoist priest's expression didn't change. He took out a talisman from his pocket and held it between his fingers. He chanted a spell, and the talisman glowed with golden light as it rushed toward Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian dodged the talisman. Her entire body was covered in yin qi. Ferocious souls could even be seen emerging from her body and roaring, blocking the golden light from the talisman for her. When the golden light from the talisman shone on them, the ferocious souls vanished into thin air. Ning Shu's sharp eyes saw that Zhang Yiyan's soul was caught in the middle of the talisman. Her face was contorted in pain, but it disappeared in an instant. These souls were probably the souls that the female ghost had devoured. This female ghost was really ruthless. Even after Zhang Yiyan's death, she still didn't let her go. In the original plot, Zhuang Yutang's soul had been able to escape. She had sacrificed something precious to counterattack. She was considered lucky. You evil creature, how dare you absorb so many souls? If I don't kill you today, I'm afraid you'll bring disaster to the world. The old Taoist priest's expression was a little angry. He made a spell with his fingers, and the talisman exploded with a strong golden light. It shone on Lin Qianqian, and the black aura and souls on her body quickly dissipated. Ah! Lin Qianqian let out a shrill and angry roar. Suddenly, the surrounding sand and pebbles flew. Lin Qianqian's voice was filled with hatred. Old Taoist priest, you almost destroyed my soul more than 10 years ago. Today I want you to die. Previously, I thought that the heavens were kind and spared your life to let you reincarnate. I didn't expect you to be so stubborn and evil. Today I'll kill you. I won't show any mercy. After the old Taoist priest finished speaking, he began to chant a spell. Lin Qianqian seemed to be furious. She didn't care about the talisman on her body anymore. She pounced towards Ji Qingyuan. She looked at Ji Qingyuan with a venomous gaze. She reached out her fingers, and sharp nails instantly grew out. She aimed for Ji Qingyuan's heart. Ji Qingyuan's father stood in front of Ji Qingyuan. Lin Qianqian's expression became even more venomous. She slowed down, but was still hurt by the golden light that exploded from Ji Qingyuan's father. She let out a sharp cry. Fuck, Uncle Ji is so powerful? Su Manyu saw this scene and said in surprise. Ning Shu didn't think that Ji Qingyuan's father was that powerful. He guessed that Ji Qingyuan's father had something to protect him. Ji Jinyan, I want you dead. I want you dead. I'll drag you to hell. Ji Jinyan, Ji Jinyan. The female ghost roared at Ji Qingyuan's father. Ji Jinyan's expression was indifferent. He looked at Lin Qianqian with disdain. Who do you think you are? How dare you attack my son? Tears of blood flowed out of Lin Qianqian's eyes. She looked at Ji Jinyan with hatred and sadness. Why are you doing this to me? Why not? Who do you think you are? Ji Jinyan's expression was indifferent. It was as if the female ghost in front of him was an ant. Su Manyu raised her eyebrows. Does this female ghost know Uncle Ji? There must be some grudge between them. Ning Shu felt that everyone in the dormitory was implicated. Look at the male lead's father. When the female ghost came to his door, he was still arrogant and looked disdainful and indifferent. On the other hand, the female ghost in front of Ji Jinyan looked like a little girl who had been hurt. She was unwilling, resentful, and full of resentment. A man and a woman. It was obvious what was going on. Ning Shu felt that it was boring. It was this kind of love thing again. Ning Shu said to Su Manyu, I dare say that this female ghost loves your Uncle Ji, but your Uncle Ji doesn't like her. She was probably another female supporting character in someone else's love story. Moreover, she was a ruthless one. Su Manyu glanced at Ning Shu. I'm not blind. The female ghost was probably driven mad by Ji Jingyan's attitude. She roared crazily and vomited blood. When Ji Qingyuan saw Lin Qianqian vomiting blood, he anxiously shouted, "Qianqian." Ji Jingyan grabbed Ji Qingyuan and said indifferently, "It's a female ghost now. Are you going to die?" "Dad, Qianqian's body won't be able to take it." Ji Qingyuan's face was full of pain. Ji Jingyan's face was cold. He was indifferent to his son's words. Chapter 222. Ning Shu felt that Ji Jingyan was truly a cold-hearted person. His indifference came from his bones. Even when facing his own son, he didn't show much emotion. Ji Jingyan, Ji Jingyan. Lin Qianqian called out his name again and again. Every word was like a curse, making one's heart turn cold. Su Manyu hugged Ning Shu's arm tightly. Ning Shu said, "Zhuang Yutong, I'm so scared." Ning Shu was speechless. There was no point in being scared. Under the moonlight, the bloody tears on Lin Qianqian's face looked even more eerie and terrifying. She rushed towards Ji Jingyan like a madwoman, but she was injured by the golden light on Ji Jingyan's body. The black aura on her body became thinner, but she still rushed towards Ji Jingyan, as if she was committing suicide. Lin Qianqian was stuck to the talisman. She screamed and fell to the ground. The black aura on her body dissipated. Lin Qianqian looked at the cold Ji Jingyan with tears of blood. She looked pitiful and sentimental. "Ji Jingyan, I love you so much. I love you so much. For you I'll do anything. Even if I die, you won't even look at me." Lin Qianqian cried and kept vomiting black blood. Seeing Lin Qianqian like this, Ji Qingyuan was so anxious that he was about to cry. But he was held back by his father. He panicked. The old Taoist priest made a gesture with his fingers, and the talisman on Lin Qianqian shone brighter. Lin Qianqian screamed in pain. In the distance, Ning Shu and Su Manyu covered their ears. Seeing his girlfriend in pain, Ji Qingyuan begged the old Taoist priest, "Taoist priest, please save Qianqian." The old Taoist priest chanted a spell, and a thick black aura exploded from Lin Qianqian's body. Then, the black aura left Lin Qianqian's body. She lay on the ground unconscious. "Qianqian, Qianqian." Ji Qingyuan rushed over and hugged Lin Qianqian's body. But her body was cold as if she was about to die. "Ji Jingyan, please look at me. Look at me. I love you so much. I can die for you. Why can't you love me? What's so good about her?" The female ghost begged Ji Jingyan. Her voice was no longer mournful and eerie, but the elegant and clear voice of a woman. "Why? Can't you look at me? I love you. I really love you." Ji Jingyan's face was cold and expressionless. He was indifferent to the female ghost's words, and did not even lift his eyelids. Ning Shu had never seen such a cold person. Su Manyu asked, "Ning Shu is not like his father. I'm talking about his temperament. His father is so cold." Su Manyu said, "After Ji Qingyuan's mother died, he became like this. I heard that he couldn't accept his wife's death, and was very cold to his son. His aunt died of postpartum hemorrhage, so she died of dystocia. He probably loved his wife so much that he didn't even care about his son, who caused his wife's death. TSK, TSK, TSK. What a man with deep love. Now there was a woman. Oh no, a female ghost who loved him so sadly, but he didn't feel anything. It was really pitiful to fall in love with such a man. He wouldn't look at you at all. He gave all his love to one person. Ji Qingyuan's mother was actually very lucky to have a man who cared about her and loved her so much. The female ghost saw that Ji Jingyan didn't speak, and was almost beaten to death by the old Taoist priest. Her soul became thin. The black aura around the female ghost dissipated, revealing her true appearance. She was wearing a dress, and had a slim figure. Her hair was like seaweed. Just looking at her back, she was very beautiful. "Ji Jingyan, I love you. I'm willing to do anything for you." The female ghost rushed towards Ji Jingyan. "Even if I die, I want to die in your arms." Ji Jingyan looked up, and coldly glanced at the female ghost rushing over. He said coldly, "What right do you have to die in my arms?" The female ghost was hit by the old Taoist priest. Her entire soul dissipated. Her voice was filled with great sadness. Ji Jingyan, even at this point, I still can't bear to hurt you. Can't bear to. The female ghost's voice gradually disappeared. The surroundings were silent. There wasn't a trace of wind. Ji Qingyuan carried Lin Qianqian's body and ran towards the hospital. Ji Jingyan said indifferently, "The family doctor is inside. Let's go inside." Ji Qingyuan carried Lin Qianqian into the hall with tears in his eyes. Ji Jingyan didn't comfort Ji Qingyuan. Instead, he said to the old Taoist priest, "Thank you for this." The old Taoist priest stroked his beard and said, "After all, you owe this female ghost a marriage. But she has done many evil things. This is retribution. The people hiding over there can come out now." The old Taoist priest looked in the direction where Ning Shu and Su Manyu were hiding. Ning Shu was still happy that the mission had been completed. She hadn't died, and the female ghost had been destroyed. Su Manyu grabbed Ning Shu's arm and said, "Zhuang Yutong, help me. My legs are numb." "What a good-for-nothing." Ning Shu dragged Su Manyu over. "Uncle Ji, it's me," Su Manyu said to Ji Jingyan. Ji Jingyan glanced at Su Manyu. "Su Manyu." Ji Jingyan casually glanced at Ning Shu. Then he quickly glanced at Ning Shu. Ning Shu took a step forward, but immediately stopped. After being glanced at by Ji Jingyan, Ning Shu felt a chill run down his spine. He felt as if his blood had frozen. After traversing through several worlds, this was the first time he had met such a cold person. He ignored everything. Even the miracle doctor wasn't so cold. The miracle doctor had a heart condition and couldn't be too emotional. But Ji Jingyan didn't seem to have any emotions. There was only coldness, coldness, coldness. "This is?" Ji Jingyan looked at Ning Shu and asked Su Manyu. Su Manyu said, "This is my classmate. She's a friend from the same dormitory. Her name is Zhuang Yutong." Zhuang Yutong? Ji Jingyan chewed on the name. Every word came out of his mouth. For some reason, Ning Shu's back was covered in sweat. Ji Jingyan looked away from Ning Shu and said calmly, "It's late. Go inside and drink some water." "Okay. My legs are so weak that I can't walk anymore." Su Manyu agreed readily. Ning Shu wanted to refuse, but Su Manyu had already said it. He couldn't refuse. Su Manyu wanted to go in and see Lin Qianqian's miserable state. Plus, the female ghost had been eliminated. Su Manyu felt that the world was beautiful. Ning Shu followed the group into the villa's living room. The living room was huge and luxurious. Ning Shu lowered her head and sat on the sofa, listening to Su Manyu and Ji Jingyan talk about the ghost in the dormitory. But Ning Shu felt that Ji Jingyan's gaze was constantly on her. It made Ning Shu feel uneasy. She didn't know this Ji Jingyan. Furthermore, the original owner came from the mountains. She didn't know a rich guy like Ji Jingyan. Chapter 223. Ji Jingyan pushed an exquisite porcelain teacup in front of Ning Shu and said coldly, "Miss Zhuang, please have some tea." Ning Shu felt Ji Jingyan's body lean towards her, giving her a sense of pressure. Ning Shu lowered her head and said, "Thank you." The Taoist priest sitting at the side said, "Since you were both haunted by the female ghost, why are the two of you fine? Also, the yin qi isn't very serious." Ning Shu didn't want to expose the existence of her soul pearl, so she didn't say anything. Su Manyu said, "Yutong went home and found a witch to prescribe some medicine to remove the yin qi. We drink it often, so the yin qi hasn't entered our bodies." The old Taoist priest touched his beard. "So that's how it is. You should have something on you to protect yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so relaxed." The old Taoist priest looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "Granny gave me an amulet." The old Taoist priest touched his beard and didn't say anything. Ji Jingyan said to Ning Shu, "Then Miss Zhuang, do you still have the medicine? I hope to give some to the little girl upstairs. That girl is the girl Ji Qingyuan likes." Su Manyu pouted. Ning Shu nodded. "Sure." The corners of Ji Jingyan's mouth curled up slightly. Previously, the light outside was not very bright, but looking at Ji Jingyan now, he only felt that his face was exquisite, cold and proud. Although he was Ji Qingyuan's father, he looked like he was only in his 30s and had a strong aura. This was an extremely handsome man. No wonder the female ghost loved him so much. Now that he smiled, Ning Shu felt that his smile could topple a country. "Then Miss Zhuang, please bring the medicine over tomorrow." Ji Jingyan looked at Ning Shu, who had her head lowered. Ning Shu nodded and said, Sorry for disturbing you for so long. Man Yu and I will leave first. No rush. It's already late. You can leave tomorrow, Ji Jinyan said. Ning Shu was speechless. I'm not familiar with you at all. Since you're Su Girl's friend, you don't have to be polite. It's not safe for two girls to walk at night. Ji Jinyan picked up the exquisite teacup on the marble coffee table and took a sip. There's no need. Ning Shu held Su Manyu's hand and walked away. He could feel the gaze following him like a shadow. What's going on? After leaving the villa, Ning Shu let out a sigh of relief. Su Manyu, who was beside him, was very happy. We finally got rid of the female ghost. Oh my, we can finally live a peaceful life. Ning Shu also smiled, and his heart relaxed. Oh my, I can finally leave this world. When they returned to the dormitory, the sky was still dark. Ning Shu and Su Manyu went back to sleep. When Ning Shu woke up, he realized that his soul pearl was gone. Ning Shu looked around for a while, but he couldn't find his things. Ning Shu almost turned the entire dormitory upside down. Did he drop it on the road, or did the old Taoist take it away? Fuck, where's my pearl? I'm going blind from crying. Zhuang Yutong, what are you looking for? Su Manyu saw Ning Shu's bitter and hateful expression and felt distressed. Nothing. One of my shoes is missing. Ning Shu's voice was so distressed that the tone of his voice changed. Shame, it's just a pair of shoes. I'll give you a pair. It's enough for you to buy a pair. Su Manyu waved her hand and said disdainfully. Ding, quest completed. Leaving the character world. 2333's voice suddenly sounded. Zhuang Yutong's voice went limp, and Ning Shu's soul was roaring. My pearl, my soul pearl. Back in the system space, Ning Shu was still howling. The whole system space was filled with Ning Shu's roars. Oh right, I'll keep this pearl. You're now a soul, so you can't get close to the soul pearl. Your soul will be sucked away by the soul pearl. Why didn't you say so earlier? I thought I lost it. My heart was bleeding. Ning Shu said unhappily. 2333 retorted. Didn't I say that when you return to the system space, I'll take away the soul pearl? Why didn't you tell me when you took it away? Ning Shu's tone was very bad. 2333 was really an idiot. He wasn't reliable at all. Why was he so different from the system mainframe? 2333 system stiffly changed the topic. Let's see how many points I earned this time. Ning Shu's status panel appeared in front of him. Number, 23333 name. Ning Shu age. 27 experience. 500003000 soul. 200 life. 50 wisdom. 85 charm. 3 luck. 34 spirit. 120 martial strength. 10 aptitude. 26 merit. 23 skills. 5th ring spear technique. Trash fighting technique. Trash entry to Peerless Martial Arts honorary title. Goddess of War mission completion progress. 100. Obtain 10 attribute points. The mission this time gave him 30,000 points. The points weren't very high. He obtained 10 attribute points and 3 merit points. Ning Shu didn't know what the use of merit points was. Ning Shu allocated the attribute points to wisdom, luck and martial strength. His status panel changed. Number, 23333 name. Ning Shu age. 27 experience. 500003000 soul. 200 life. 50 wisdom. 85 charm. 3 luck. 343 spirit. 120 martial strength. 107 aptitude. 26 merit. 23 skills. 5th ring spear technique. Trash fighting technique. Trash entry to Peerless Martial Arts honorary title. Goddess of War. Ning Shu realized that martial strength was really important. Just like this mission, if it wasn't for his agile body and reaction speed, he would have died in the hands of the female ghost. He wouldn't have been able to obtain a treasure like the soul pearl. Ning Shu, add some attribute points to your charm. 23333 said. You keep adding attribute points to your martial strength. Do you really want to become a freakishly strong woman? Ning Shu didn't care at all. Isn't it good to have a high martial strength? I think it's pretty good. It's even better if you have charm. With charm, it'll make things a lot easier. With charm, people will have a good impression of you. It's also beneficial for the mission. 23,333 advised. Ning Shu said faintly. It's better to rely on myself than on others. I'm not going to fall in love. Why would I need such a high charm? Ning Shu knew very well that he wouldn't be able to stay in the mission world for long. Once she left, the original owner would return to his body and start a new life. Ning Shu suddenly asked 23333. I've been traveling from one world to another. I've been fighting for all kinds of people. I've been living like this for a long time. It's a bit tiring. 23333 was silent for a moment. Then he said, rest well. Your soul is a bit tired. What you've done is very meaningful. Not only have you fought for those who desire to change their fate, but you've also stabilized the realm. You can live forever. Although this kind of longevity is a bit bitter, although your time in the mission world is short, you will never disappear unless you fail the mission and are killed. Maybe one day you'll be strong enough to transcend everything. Then you'll be free. 23333 comforted Ning Shu. You're the same as those who want to fight for survival. You're all fighting for your life to change your fate. Ning Shu let out a long sigh. It was as if he wanted to exhale the turbid air in his heart. Chapter 224. 2333 was afraid that Ning Shu's soul would crumble. Players had completed too many quests, and their minds couldn't take it anymore. Naturally, they would vanish into thin air. Therefore, the quest takers not only had to complete the quest, but they also had to adjust their mentality. Some quest takers became bloodthirsty, and some lost their minds. They used their abilities to wreak havoc in the quest world, and caused the world to collapse. Ning Shu felt that she was being unreasonable. She was supposed to die, and now she was given this opportunity. As long as she stayed true to her heart, there was nothing she could not do. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground and began to absorb the materials in the dimension to replenish her soul. Just like 2333 said, she was immortal to a certain extent. Although she existed as a soul, she had failed her mission as a human. Even if Ning Shu died now, Ning Shu had no regrets. Ning Shu, are you okay? 2333 asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu opened her eyes and heard 2333's words. She said, I'm fine. I'm fine. Phew, that's good. I thought I was going to be thrown back into the recycle bin. You scared me. 2333 said happily. Thank goodness you're fine. Ning Shu. Ning Shu closed her eyes and ignored 2333. She tried to absorb the materials in the system. Ning Shu wanted to strengthen her soul. After some time, Ning Shu opened her eyes. She felt relaxed. She said to 2333, let's start the quest. Okay. After 2333 said that, Ning Shu felt dizzy. The dizziness did not last long. Ning Shu's soul was now so strong that she could clearly feel her soul fusing with her body. After she got used to it, Ning Shu heard a child crying beside her ear. The child was crying loudly, calling for his mother. There were people beside him trying to console the child, but the child was still crying very sadly. Ning Shu opened his heavy eyelids. He rolled his eyes and saw a fair and tender child crying beside the bed. Her Highness the Empress is awake, Your Highness. The palace maid serving her immediately said happily. Imperial Mother, Imperial Mother. Little Munchkin grabbed onto Ning Shu's hand and looked at Ning Shu with teary eyes, melting his heart. Ning Shu comforted her. Mother is fine. Don't cry. Ning Shu wanted to get up, but his body was very heavy. Furthermore, he felt like he couldn't breathe properly. His heart ached faintly. Ning Shu had learned medical skills from the godly doctor for a period of time. To put it bluntly, he was angry at himself. Help me up. Palace maid Ning Shu said weakly. Imperial Mother, I will help you. Little Munchkin was originally a child, about 4 or 5 years old. There were still traces of tears on his face. As he held onto Ning Shu's arm, his face was red. Ning Shu felt a warm and soft feeling in his heart. It should be a reflection of this body. Ning Shu was not used to it. She had become the mother of a child. The palace maid came over and helped Ning Shu up. Ning Shu leaned back against the cushion and looked at little Munchkin. He tried his best to speak to him in a gentle tone. Mother is fine. Don't worry. Imperial Mother, I am so scared. I am so scared that Imperial Mother will leave me. I will not be naughty in the future. I will study seriously and make Imperial Father happy. Little Munchkin grabbed onto Ning Shu's hand tightly. Ning Shu said to Little Munchkin, "Mother will be fine. Mother will never leave you." Ning Shu tried her best to coax the child. She felt dizzy, her heart was palpitating, and her breathing was short. This child's body was too weak. Ning Shu felt tired just by saying a few words. "Go and wash your face." Ning Shu asked the palace maid to take the child away. Little Munchkin looked at Ning Shu reluctantly, but still obediently went down with the wet nurse. Once the child left, Ning Shu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Just a slight movement, and his entire body was covered in sweat. "Your Highness, it's time to drink your medicine." The palace maid brought the medicine over. Ning Shu took the bowl of medicine and sniffed it. It was all nourishing medicine. It was not poisonous, but it was useless for this body. The original owner of this body was overthinking. "Take it away. I want to rest," Ning Shu said lightly. The palace maid hesitated and looked at Ning Shu. She lowered her head and said, "The imperial physician said that your highness has to take the medicine on time." "I know. Leave." Ning Shu was very impatient. The palace maid immediately took the bowl of medicine and left. Ning Shu lay down and prepared to accept the plot. The original owner of this body was the Empress of the Yin Kingdom. Her name was Xiao Xiao. Her grandfather was the Grand Marshal. During the fight for the throne, the original owner of this body was the most sought-after concubine among the princes. However, Xiao Xiao chose the current emperor, the fourth prince Wuxia. The fourth prince had the support of the Grand Marshal. In addition, the fourth prince was a capable man. He successfully ascended the throne, and the original owner of this body became the empress. Wuxia was very deep and cold. He did not care about women, and had no interest in the women in the harem. The original owner of this body married Wuxia for 5 years, before she gave birth to a baby. It was the little boy just now, Wuchengwang. Xiao Xiao worked hard to take care of the harem. Otherwise, Wuxia would worry. Every month, Wuxia would come to her palace on the 15th. Sometimes he would roll with Xiao Xiao. After the original owner of this body gave birth to Wuchengwang, she always wanted to have children. However, she could not conceive. She gave up and put all her hopes on Wuchengwang. Wuchengwang was now a child, but the original owner of this body forced him to study. Wuxia also raised Wuchengwang as an heir. Xiao Xiao was a woman, and she was the empress's woman. She gradually felt that Wuxia did not love her. He married her to get the support of her grandfather. However, Wuxia was tall and handsome. Moreover, he was an emperor. Xiao Xiao put her heart on Wuxia and tried her best to do what a wife should do. She thought that she would live like this until she grew old and be buried in the same grave as Wuxia. However, fate took a turn. This matter began when Wuxia brought back a golden fox from the hunting grounds. This golden fox was very smart and very human. Wuxia doted on this golden fox very much. No matter what he did, he would bring this fox with him. When eating, the fox would squat on the table and eat drumsticks. When sleeping, they would sleep together. Even when bathing, they would be together. Other than going to court, Wuxia and this fox were inseparable. Wuxia came to the harem less and less. He did not even go to the empress's palace on the 15th of every month. He did not summon the harem concubines to sleep with him for a few months. It was simply too abnormal. As a man, Wuxia suddenly had no needs. This caused all the women in the harem to die of thirst. They clearly had a man, but they were like widows. Under the cries of the harem women, the original owner of this body decided to ask Wuxia what was wrong. Chapter 225. Xiao Xiao suspected that Wuxia was hiding a woman. Otherwise, he wouldn't summon the harem women to his bed for half a year. However, Wuxia was the emperor. Even if he had a woman, she, as the mistress of the harem, should know. Why hide a woman? Xiao Xiao went to ask Wuxia why he hadn't been to the harem for so long. Wuxia impatiently said that he had matters to attend to in the previous court, and had no time to go to the harem. He brought up the matters of the previous court. As a harem woman, Xiao Xiao naturally couldn't interfere in court affairs. She also couldn't ask what he was busy with. Xiao Xiao saw Wuxia holding the little fox in his arms. His gaze was especially doting. Xiao Xiao didn't care at all. In the end, it was just an animal. However, she didn't expect Huaqing to dote on this fox to an unprecedented extent. It turned the harem upside down. Today, it broke the imperial concubine's vases. Tomorrow, it would tear Jieyu's clothes. It was so gluttonous that it ate everything. It often sneaked into the imperial kitchen to steal food. In short, it was especially naughty. This caused the harem concubines to be very resentful. They ran to Xiao Xiao to complain. Xiao Xiao went to find Huaqing to discipline this fox. The harem was really out of control. Huaqing just dotingly tapped the little fox's forehead. He was very dissatisfied with Xiao Xiao making a fuss over nothing. She was bickering with an animal. Xiao Xiao was so angry that she almost fainted. After that, she was teased by the little fox. Xiao Xiao wanted to beat this animal to death. However, Xiao Xiao didn't dare. Even if this animal set the palace on fire, Huaqing wouldn't say anything. He would unconditionally dote on this fox. This was a treatment that even humans couldn't enjoy. This animal actually enjoyed it. The harem women hated this fox so much that their teeth itched. Even Xiao Xiao was jealous. She had been married to Huaqing for so long, but Huaqing had always been cold to her. She had never received such gentleness and doting from him. The concubines cried and complained in front of Xiao Xiao every day, adding fuel to the fire. This made Xiao Xiao hate this fox even more. She even found people to kill the fox, but they all failed. When Huaqing found out, he was so angry that he wanted to depose the empress. If Xiao Xiao's grand marshal grandfather didn't stand up to stop him, Xiao Xiao would have stayed in the cold palace. From then on, Xiao Xiao lost her dignity and status as an empress. She was now an empress who was despised by the emperor. Xiao Xiao's heart was filled with hatred and pain. It was simply a vicious cycle. Moreover, this fox often came to tease her, jumping on her body and messing up her hair and clothes. Then very humanely, it would cover its mouth with its paw and run away. The concubines also saw clearly that if they wanted to gain the emperor's favor, they had to please this fox. No matter what the fox did, the concubines gritted their teeth and endured it. Xiao Xiao was very unwilling to give up and thought of ways to kill this beast. She even found her grandfather and asked him to kill the fox. However, she didn't expect that the marshal's mansion would be found to have betrayed the country. Huaqing directly took away the military power and executed the whole family. When Xiao Xiao learned of this, she vomited a mouthful of blood. She felt that she had caused the death of her entire family. Xiao Xiao didn't believe that her grandfather would betray the country. He was already so old, there was no need for that. It was just that Huaqing wanted to take back the military power in her grandfather's hands. Once the cunning rabbit was killed, the hound was thrown away. Xiao Xiao really regretted marrying Huaqing and causing the death of her entire family. In addition, her son, Huaqing, ran around crazily with the fox every day. His heart was wild. Xiao Xiao couldn't teach him anymore. He was a good-for-nothing and was always reprimanded by Huaqing. Xiao Xiao's heart was filled with despair. She cried tears of blood and hung herself. Ningxu was speechless. She was courting death. Actually, what Xiao Xiao didn't know was that this fox was actually a human inside. She was just a girl who had transmigrated from the modern world into a fox's body. After transmigrating into a beast, she really thought of herself as a beast. Her wild nature was hard to tame. After Xiao Xiao's death, this little fox found a pearl in Xiao Xiao's palace. Legend had it that it was a 1,000-year-old mermaid pearl. It was the original owner's dowry. The little fox accidentally swallowed it and turned the little fox into a peerless beauty. From then on, there was no color in the palace. Huaqing only liked this little fox. Because the original owner was unwilling, her soul wandered around the palace. When she saw that slut adopt her child, she said that she played well with him when she was still a fox. Huaqing didn't want to study, so she didn't let him study. She said that it wasn't a big deal to study later. She wanted to give the child a beautiful childhood. Huaqing liked this empress very much. Not long after, he forgot about his mother. That was until the slut gave birth to a child of her own. That child was very smart and good at studying. He had a photographic memory, which made Huaqing seem even more vulgar. He became the slut's son's follower. He watched as the slut's son became the emperor while Huaqing and the fox spirit went sightseeing. The original owner's wishes were: 1. Don't let the marshal's family be executed. 2. Don't let this immoral slut die a horrible death. 3. Hua Chunwang was the son of the first wife. Don't let that be the ending. When Ning Shu saw the original owner's wishes, he felt that the first wish wasn't easy to fulfill. He felt that the marshal's family's decline was inevitable. Hua Qing was the emperor, and the original owner's grandfather held military power. If the other party was hot-headed and rebelled, the throne under his but would be unstable. It would be like a fishbone stuck in the throat. Hua Qing wanted to deal with the marshal's family from the moment he ascended the throne. Handing over military power was tantamount to having one's hands and feet tied. Hua Qing could do whatever he wanted. With military power in hand, at least Hua Qing would be a little wary. The original owner fainted because he wanted Hua Chunwang to study. Hua Chunwang was still young and didn't like to study. He said that he hated Imperial Mother, and Imperial Mother only wanted him to study. He wanted to play with the little fox. The original owner was so angry that his vision turned black and he fainted. Ning Shu felt a headache coming on. He opened his eyes and rubbed his forehead. The most important thing now was to take care of his body. Sitting on the bed, Ning Shu began to cultivate his peerless martial arts. After a while, Ning Shu's whole body was covered in sweat. He had no choice but to stop and let the palace maid bring hot water to wash up. After washing up, Ning Shu's body felt a little better. He also ate a little more for lunch, which made his personal palace maid very happy. Ning Shu sorted out the plot in his head as he ate. The little fox had just arrived in the palace not long ago. Ning Shu decided to destroy the shark pearl, so that it wouldn't be able to transform into a human. Let's see how you guys are going to do it. Ning Shu put down the bowl and asked his personal palace maid Qing Zhu to find the shark pearl in the dowry. Qing Zhu was stunned for a moment before she found the shark pearl. Ning Shu looked at the shark pearl. Although it was called a shark pearl, it was just a big and round pearl. Perhaps it had some mysterious power that could allow the little fox to transform into a human. He sneered and picked up a stool and smashed it on the pearl. The pearl didn't shatter. Ning Shu smashed it a few more times before the pearl finally shattered. Ning Shu didn't stop and continued smashing the pearl until it turned into powder. Ning Shu blew at the powder, causing it to fly up and fall to the ground. Qing Zhu, oh! Chapter 226. Zhuang Yutang, you're awake. I thought you were possessed by a ghost. You scared me to death. Zhuang Yutang opened her eyes and saw Su Manyu complaining. Although she was complaining, Su Manyu's eyes were filled with worry. Are you alright? You fainted all of a sudden. Su Manyu looked at Zhuang Yutang. What's wrong with you? Zhuang Yutang felt a little dizzy. She said to Su Manyu, I'm fine. Su Manyu looked at Zhuang Yutang with an evil expression as she said, should we go check on Lin Qianqian? Didn't you promise Uncle Ji to deliver her medicine? You can send the medicine over. I won't go. I'm not feeling well, Zhuang Yutang said. Su Manyu saw that Lin Qianqian did not look well. She nodded and left with the medicine bag. Before she left, Ning Shu said, when I come back, I'll tell you about Lin Qianqian's terrible condition. Zhuang Yutang. That Zhuang Yutang felt like she was in a dream, but she remembered it clearly in her mind. It didn't feel like a dream. After Su Manyu left, Zhuang Yutang closed her eyes and slept for a while. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Zhuang Yutang climbed down from the bed and opened the door while asking, who is it? Zhuang Yutang opened the door and saw a rather unexpected person at the door. Zhuang Yutang stuttered, why are you here? It was Ji Qingyuan's father, Ji Jinyan. Ji Jinyan walked into the dormitory, looked into Zhuang Yutang's eyes and said, I'll treat you to a meal. Why? Zhuang Yutang asked in a daze. She was not familiar with this man at all. They had only met once. But he actually came to her dormitory and said that he wanted to treat her to a meal. Ha ha ha. Take it as my thanks for your medicine. I heard from Su Girl that you were in the dormitory. I asked you to deliver the medicine personally. Why didn't you go? Ji Jinyan's tone was very domineering. Zhuang Yutang. That was this person sick in the head? Change your clothes. I'll treat you to a meal. Ji Jinyan glanced at Zhuang Yutang. This person was sick. Ji Jingyan raised his wrist, looked at his watch and said, Miss Zhuang, please hurry up. My time is very precious. Zhuang Yutong. Wiping his tears. What to do if I meet a lunatic? Which save me. Don't you have nice clothes to change into? In return for the medicinal powder, I can give you some. Ji Jingyan saw Zhuang Yutong's confused expression and seemed to be very considerate. With a stiff face, Zhuang Yutong said, Please leave. I'm going to change. Ji Jingyan grunted and turned to leave. Zhuang Yutong wanted to bang her head against the metal bed. What kind of person was this? When Zhuang Yutong changed her clothes and went out, Ji Jingyan frowned but didn't say anything. The two of them went downstairs. Zhuang Yutong's eyelids twitched when she saw the luxury car parked in front of the dormitory. Ji Jingyan opened the car door for Zhuang Yutong. Zhuang Yutong sat in the car and felt out of place with Gij. Everything in the car was luxurious and fragrant. She looked at the clothes she was wearing. Zhuang Yutong decided that she would never associate with such people again. She didn't want to feel inferior and torment herself. Ji Jingyan sat in the car and saw Zhuang Yutong's eyes flickering. He smiled. You will have this life in the future. Zhuang Yutong didn't comment. Instead, she was more concerned about why this man was looking for her. They were eating at a Western restaurant. Zhuang Yutong sat opposite Ji Jingyan and said lightly, Sorry, I don't know Western dining etiquette. Ji Jingyan said, I can teach you. No need, Mr. Ji. I want to know why you're looking for me. Zhuang Yutong asked. You're making me lose my appetite. Ji Jingyan took a sip of red wine and looked at Zhuang Yutong in a daze. Your eyes are exactly the same as my wife's. When I first saw you, I thought he was standing in front of me. Zhuang Yutong. Oh. Ji Jingyan raised his eyebrows. Her reaction was so calm. Aren't you curious about my wife? Ji Jingyan asked. Zhuang Yutong. Why should I be curious? We don't know each other. Mr. Ji, are you looking into my eyes to comfort yourself because my eyes are similar to your wife's? Or do you want to keep me as your wife's substitute? Sumanyu said you love your wife very much, but your current actions make me doubt your loyalty to your wife. Zhuang Yutong stood up. Sorry, I'll leave first. I don't know how to eat Western food. Goodbye, Mr. Ji. Zhuang Yutong only wanted to study hard, so that she could have a job after graduation to reduce the burden on her family. Ji Jingyan and she were from different worlds. Life was already so difficult. Why should she play with the rich? Ji Jingyan watched Zhuang Yutong leave the restaurant and raised his eyebrows. Loyalty to his wife? When Zhuang Yutong returned to the dormitory, Sumanyu had already returned. Sumanyu immediately said excitedly, Lin Qianqian's leg is going to be amputated. Her leg is seriously injured, and the infection is very serious. We can only amputate it. I don't know if Ji Qingyuan will still like Lin Qianqian with a broken leg. Zhuang Yutong silently looked at Sumanyu's happy face and was speechless. Sumanyu's face fell. Zhuang Yutong asked, What's wrong? I'm getting engaged, Sumanyu suddenly said. Zhuang Yutong. Pfft, why so sudden? Zhuang Yutong asked. You haven't even graduated yet. You don't understand the lifestyle of people in our class. We can still get married before we graduate. Marriage doesn't affect our lives. We can still have fun as usual. Sumanyu sighed. Zhuang Yutong asked again. Who are you getting engaged to? Ji Qingyuan. Sumanyu rolled her eyes. Zhuang Yutong. Puffed. The riches circle is so messy. Zhuang Yutong sighed. Damn. Why is it so frustrating to get engaged to Ji Qingyuan? Damn. I have to get involved with Lin Qianqian again. It's so annoying just looking at her. It was obvious that Sumanyu didn't want to get engaged to Ji Qingyuan. People who want to live with each other for the rest of their lives should find someone they like, Zhuang Yutong said. Zhuang Yutong said with disdain, You're indeed a country bumpkin who doesn't know anything. We're combining interests. It has nothing to do with feelings. Don't you like Ji Qingyuan? Zhuang Yutong looked at her from the corner of her eyes. Damn, let's not talk about this dark history. I'd rather like a country bumpkin like you than Ji Qingyuan, Sumanyu said. Zhuang Yutong's mouth twitched. I don't need you to like a country bumpkin like me. You should go and like Ji Qingyuan. When did I say I liked you? I was just making an example. It means that Ji Qingyuan is not worth mentioning in my heart, Su Manyu quickly said. Zhuang Yutong, that damn what a vicious word. Look at how scared you are. Why would I like a country bumpkin? Su Manyu said with disdain. Her expression didn't look too good. She couldn't help but push Zhuang Yutong. I won't like you. Zhuang Yutong, what's wrong with you? Chapter 227. My lady, what are you doing? Qing Zhu saw Ning Shu smash the shark pearl and quickly said, My lady, this is the dowry that the marshal gave you. There is only one in the world. There was only one in the world, so it was good. Rather than giving it to the little fox, it was better to smash it herself. Ning Shu clapped her hands and said, I am not in a good mood, so I smashed a pearl for fun. My lady. Qing Zhu looked at Ning Shu and did not know what to say. Clean up the things on the ground. I am going to take a nap. Ning Shu returned to her bedroom and prepared to cultivate her peerless martial arts. She needed to take care of her body first. She meditated for half a day. Ning Shu felt hungry and opened her eyes. It was already dark. Qing Zhu was anxiously pacing around outside. When she saw Ning Shu come out, she let out a sigh of relief and asked, My lady, do you want to eat dinner now? Yes. Ning Shu sat on a chair as a palace maid served the dishes. Beside her, Qing Zhu said, Your Highness, the little prince came over in the afternoon. I told him that your highness was resting, so the little prince left. Ning Shu made a sound of acknowledgement and ate the food. It tasted really good. Qing Zhu carefully looked at Ning Shu and advised, Your Highness, the little prince is still young, so he's naturally a bit playful. Perhaps it's because studying is really too hard. Ning Shu put down her chopsticks. Qing Zhu's expression changed. She quickly bowed and said, I have overstepped my boundaries. I deserve to die. Ning Shu looked at this girl. She grew up with the original owner of the body. After the original owner died, she went into hiding. She wanted to take revenge for the original owner. She wanted to poison the little fox, but her plan was seen through, and she was poisoned by Huqing. Qing Zhu was born in the marshal's residence. The marshal's residence was executed, and her family was killed. In order to take revenge for her master and family, she took the risk. Of course, the result was tragic. Qing Zhu, get up. Ning Shu lightly said. Being born in the royal family, how can there be a beautiful childhood? They are provided for by the common people of the world. They wear luxurious clothes, and have servants to serve them. They are not like ordinary children who don't have enough to eat or warm clothes. Ordinary children even have to run around for their family's livelihood when they are very young. What kind of good childhood is there to speak of? You have to bear the responsibility of your position. Ning Shu said indifferently. In the end, Huqing ended up in such a pitiful state. Why would he have to pay for his own laziness and willfulness? Of course, it was also because of the self-righteous indulgence of the little fox. If one didn't have the life of a main character, then one should work hard. Ning Shu did not know how to educate the child. She had never given birth to a child before, so she did not know how to educate a child. For the time being, she did not want to see the little munchkin. Qing Zhu comforted Ning Shu. The little prince will definitely understand her ladyship's painstaking efforts. Children all had rebellious tendencies. The more pressure they were under, the more they would react. He could only take it slow. For the next few days, Ning Shu stayed in her bedroom and did not go out. Even when the concubines came to pay their respects, Qing Zhu rejected them, saying that the empress was not feeling well. These concubines could only reluctantly return. Even when the news spread in the palace that the empress was sick, Huqing did not step into the harem to ask about the empress's health. He did not even pretend to comfort her. Ning Shu did not care very much. She even felt very fortunate. It seemed that Huqing was now going to keep his chastity. Ning Shu did not want to roll with Huqing at all. She just did not know how Huqing solved his physiological needs. Could it be that he masturbated himself? Ning Shu cultivated day and night. Finally, this body was out of breath after walking a few steps. It seemed that the original owner was very angry. Thinking that it had been such a long time, she should communicate with the little munchkin, Huqing. Ning Shu asked Qing Zhu to call Huqing over. When Hua Chunwang looked over, his face was red and covered in sweat. Ningxu narrowed her eyes. She saw that there was a strand of golden fur on Hua Chunwang's shoulder. It seemed that this little guy was playing with the little fox again. Hua Chunwang properly bowed to Ningxu. Akin greets Muhu. Muhu is in good health. Ningxu looked at Hua Chunwang like this. Hua Chunwang's red face flashed with a trace of uneasiness. Ningxu gently pulled Hua Chunwang over and reached out to brush off the golden fox fur on his shoulder. Muhu. Hua Chunwang saw Ningxu like this, and his expression became even more uneasy. He lowered his head and did not dare to speak. Chunwang, did you play with the little fox today? Ningxu asked gently. Tell Muhu, where did you go? Muhu Akin did not. Hua Chunwang lowered his head and lied. Ningxu said, Muhu does not mean to blame you. In the future, you can play with the little fox. Really? Muhu? Hua Chunwang suddenly raised his head and looked at Ningxu with shining eyes. Ningxu nodded. You can. Muhu, you are so good. Hua Chunwang squeezed into Ningxu's arms and twisted his body to act spoiled with Ningxu. Ningxu was not used to this and pulled Hua Chunwang out of her arms. She said unhappily, You are already a man, yet you are still acting spoiled with Muhu. If you want to play with the little fox, Muhu has a condition. As long as you complete it, you can play with the little fox however you want. Ningxu said seriously. Hua Chunwang immediately patted his small chest and said, Muhu, Akin will definitely do well. Muhu doesn't have many requirements. Practice 20 characters every day and memorize a poem. As long as you complete it, you can go play. The sooner you complete it, the longer you can play with the little fox. Ningxu gently coaxed him. Rather than make him study day and night, it was better to set a number. At least he would have a goal to strive for. Yes, Muhu. I will definitely complete it. Hua Chunwang promised, his face shining. Ningxu nodded. As long as you can complete it, that is good. But you must complete it before you can play, understand? Chunwang, you really like the little fox. Yes, the little fox is very cute and very smart. I have never seen such a smart animal. Hua Chunwang nodded repeatedly. He looked very cute. Ningxu played with her nails and said with a smile, Is that so? I heard that your father also likes it. The little fox is so cute. Who wouldn't like it? Hua Chunwang said matter-of-factly. Ningxu thought, I don't like the one in front of you. Ningxu patted Hua Chunwang's shoulder. Remember the promise you made to Muhu. You are a man, and a gentleman's word is as good as a whip. I will remember it, Hua Chunwang said loudly. Hua Chunwang said loudly with the vigor of a child. He looked very cute, just like a little adult. Qingzhu, who was next to Ningxu, laughed. The palace maids in the palace all covered their mouths and snickered. Ningxu laughed. Go play. Don't forget the 20 characters in the poem. Bring them to Muhu tonight for inspection. When Hua Chunwang left, his footsteps were like the wind. Qingzhu, Ben Gong hasn't been able to sleep well at night recently. I keep feeling like there's something rustling around. It should be a rat. Get someone to put some rats in a hidden corner. Ningxu said faintly. Qingzhu agreed and went to do it. Chapter 228. At night, Hua Chunwang obediently brought his homework over. It was the 20 characters that Hua Chunwang had written. Ningxu tested Hua Chunwang to see if he could recognize these characters. Hua Chunwang then recited a poem. He shook his little head like an old scholar reciting the book. After he finished reciting, he looked at Ningxu. Ningxu nodded and praised him. Very good. Chunwang is very good. Hua Chunwang's face was red. He puffed out his chest and said, Son knows even more. To be honest, Ningxu was really embarrassed. His handwriting wasn't as good as a 5-year-old child's. Ningxu felt that he would definitely not use a pen in the future. When you play with the little fox, you have to be careful. Don't go to places that are too dangerous. Do you understand? Ningxu reminded Hua Chunwang. Hua Chunwang nodded and said, Muhu, you are so good. Ningxu patted Hua Chunwang's shoulder. He originally wanted to pat his little butt, but he felt like a strange auntie. He could only pat his shoulder. Go back and rest. Ningxu said with a smile. He then reminded him, Don't get scratched by the little fox. It is after all an animal. It is not good for the body to be scratched. When you wash at night, have the wet nurse wash with mugwort leaf water. Do you understand? Son understands. Hua Chunwang nodded. After Hua Chunwang left, Ning Shu let out a heavy breath. It was so difficult to communicate with a child. Nyang, today is the 15th. The emperor should come. Qing Zhu looked outside the hall. But it is already so late. Ning Shu yawned. Wash and sleep. There is no need to wait. Qing Zhu looked at Ning Shu with comforting eyes and said, Nyang, it must be that the emperor is too busy. Too busy to sleep? Coming to the empress palace was basically just to sleep. It was only a few steps away. He just didn't want to come. Ning Shu had just laid down on the bed when he heard the sharp voice of a eunuch outside. The emperor has arrived. Ning Shu climbed out of bed and put on his clothes. Hua Qing walked in. Ning Shu bowed to Hua Qing. Chinxia pays respect to the emperor. Hua Qing was tall and had a belt around his waist, which made his waist look even more narrow. He gave off a very sexy feeling. The outline of his face was very deep and three-dimensional, and his nose was like a hanging gallbladder. The empress is going to bed already? Hua Qing asked. Does the empress not remember that today is the 15th? Ning Shu could clearly feel that Hua Qing was angry. Hua Qing's face was expressionless as he frowned slightly. Ning Shu was speechless. If you don't want to come, then don't come. You look like you were forced to come, which made everyone's balls ache. Hua Qing was indeed forced to come. When he went to court today, old Xiao said that he hadn't visited the harem for a long time. To put it bluntly, he wanted him to dote on his granddaughter. Hua Qing dawdled until he arrived at the empress's palace. When he left the imperial study, the little fox hugged his leg and didn't let him go. She looked at him with tears in her eyes, which made Hua Qing very uncomfortable. He tried his best to persuade the little fox to not be so sad. Now that he saw that Ning Shu had fallen asleep first, Hua Qing was furious and even hated her. Hua Qing opened his arms and waited for Ning Shu to change his clothes for him. He said lightly, "Go to bed." Ning Shu nodded. Okay. Seeing that Hua Qing didn't want to roll with her, Ning Shu was relieved. Empress, change my clothes for me, Hua Qing said coldly. Ning Shu. 0. Ning Shu climbed out of bed again and took off Hua Qing's clothes. Then the two of them lay on the bed in silence. Hua Qing simply turned his back to Ning Shu. Ning Shu, what kind of virtue is this? If it was the original owner, her heart would have been broken by Hua Qing's cold violence. Ning Shu also turned over and was back to back with Hua Qing. Damn, it was really uncomfortable to have someone next to him. He was already tall and strong. He took up half of the bed and didn't let him sleep properly. Ning Shu closed his eyes and fell asleep in a daze. Suddenly, he was awakened by the shrill scream of an animal, which was full of pain. Hua Qing hurriedly got up and stepped on Ning Shu's leg, without caring about the person sleeping next to him. Ning Shu immediately kicked Hua Qing away. Hua Qing accidentally fell to the ground, but he didn't care at all. With an anxious face he shouted, "Who or where are you?" The fox screamed. It was a bit like a high-octave dog bark, but also like a woman's scream. It was especially terrifying in the middle of the night, and made people shudder. Who are? Hua Qing's face was very anxious. Ning Shu got down from the couch and asked Qing Zhu to light up the candle. Hua Qing directly snatched the candle. He clearly heard Hua crying pitifully not far away. In the end, Hua Qing found the little fox under the window of the room. One of the little fox's forelimbs was caught in a rat trap and was bleeding. Hua Qing's heart ached immensely. Call the imperial physician, call the imperial physician. Hua Qing's eyes were red as he roared at Ning Shu. Hua Qing was calm, but the original owner had never seen him so emotional. Call the imperial physician, Ning Shu said to Qing Zhu. Qing Zhu hurriedly went to call the imperial physician. She was frightened by Hua Qing's appearance. Hua Qing squatted down and wanted to remove the rat trap, but he was afraid of hurting the little fox. He was so anxious that he didn't know what to do. The little fox cried at Hua Qing with tears flowing down her face. She looked very pitiful. Ning Shu watched from the side. This fox was covered in gold and looked very beautiful. Her eyes were very lively, and there was a cunning look in her eyes. But now, her eyes were dim and she kept crying at Hua Qing. It was hard to imagine that an animal's body could contain a human soul. Ning Shu also learned something new. Could it be that the target of her missions in the future might also be non-human? Hua Qing suddenly turned his head to look at Ning Shu and asked sharply, "Empress, why do you have such a dangerous thing in your bedroom?" Ning Shu said calmly, "I haven't been sleeping well these days. There are always rats at night, so I asked the palace maids to make a rat trap. I didn't expect it to come. It never comes to my palace. Who knew that something like this would happen?" This fox hadn't been in the palace for long. It hadn't become familiar with the ground, and hadn't become as lawless as in the plot. "I don't know why it came today," Ning Shu said very sincerely. Hua Qing was speechless for a moment. He couldn't say that it was because he was here, and who relied on him. As the emperor, Hua Qing would never say such words. At least, he wouldn't say such words in front of Ning Shu the empress. Hua Qing touched the little fox's head and comforted her. "Huer, it's okay. The imperial physician will be here soon." Whoa. The little fox lay on the ground. Her voice was very weak from the pain. She was cursing in her heart. How could she be so unlucky? How could she be caught by this thing? Ugh, it hurt. It was all because of Hua Qing, that bastard. If she didn't follow him, she wouldn't be injured. The more the little fox thought about it, the sadder she felt. She felt wronged and the pain in her wound made her cry. Hua Qing wanted to hug the little fox. Chapter 229. Ning Shu looked at Hua Qing's gentle appearance. It was clearly a person and a fox, but there was an indescribable ambiguity between them. Oh my God, love really could transcend race and gender. The imperial physician rushed over in a hurry. Before he could salute, Hua Qing said anxiously, "Quickly save my pet." Yes. The imperial physician didn't even have time to catch his breath before he rushed to save the little fox. Hua Qing watched from the side. When he saw the imperial physician touching the little fox's body, his face immediately darkened. He stared fiercely at the imperial physician's hand. He almost chopped off the imperial physician's hand. It was a strong sense of possessiveness. The little fox whimpered. The wound on its leg was very painful. Hua Qing said repeatedly, "Be gentle. Be careful." Yes, Your Majesty." The imperial physician had to pay attention to his subordinates while being nagged by Hua Qing. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He drank water at the side. He poured a cup of water for Hua Qing and said, "Your Majesty, have some tea. It will be fine." Hua Qing was already anxious, but this tactless empress still wanted him to drink water. Could he drink it now? Hua Qing directly pushed Ning Shu's hand away. The teacup fell to the ground, and the porcelain pieces shattered. Ning Shu hurriedly apologized. "Your Majesty, it's Chinchia's fault. Please don't be angry." There was still an imperial physician in the room. Hua Qing took a deep breath and said, "It's fine. I don't blame you." Whoa. The little fox whimpered in pain. It looked at Hua Qing with its watery eyes. Hua Qing and the little fox's eyes met. He immediately moved away from Ning Shu and comforted. "Don't be afraid, Huer. I'm here. You will be fine." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and covered his mouth with a handkerchief. He almost laughed out loud. He felt that the little fox now regarded Hua Qing as its possession. Hua Qing kept calling for the imperial physician to be gentle. It took him a long time to rescue the little fox's forelimbs from the trap. Its fur was already soaked with blood, and it looked like it was seriously injured. It would probably need to recuperate for a period of time. The imperial physician placed the little fox on the bed and picked up the fur around the wound. Then he sprinkled some medicinal powder on the wound and bandaged it up meticulously. "Your Majesty, the wound has been treated. Don't let it get wet during this period of time. This official will come to change the medicine every 2 days." The imperial physician wiped the sweat on his head and cupped his hands towards Hua Qing as he spoke. Hua Qing sat by the bed and nodded with a tense face. "You can leave." The imperial physicians left like a swarm of bees, leaving only Ning Shu, Hua Qing, and the dying little fox lying on the bed in the room. "You're not allowed to put such dangerous things in the palace in the future. Look at what you've done to Huer," Hua Qing Ning Shu said coldly. Ning Shu's expression was indifferent as she bowed and said, "Chinchia will remember." Hua Qing carefully picked up the little fox on the bed. Ning Shu said. You can sleep by yourself tonight. Then she left with the little fox. Ning Shu curled her lips and saw the bright red blood stains on the bed sheet. She said to the pale-faced Qing Zhu, remove this bed sheet and make the bed again. This consort wants to sleep. Yes, Your Highness. Qing Zhu had the palace maids change the bed sheet. Ning Shu said, change the quilt cover as well. After changing the bed sheet, Ning Shu yawned and lay on the bed. Qing Zhu and Ning Shu comforted her. Your Highness, don't be too sad. Sad? This consort isn't sad. The one who's sad right now is someone else. Ning Shu sneered. Look at Hu Qing's distressed expression. Originally, it was just in case, but she didn't think that the fox would actually fall for it. Relying on the fact that it was an animal, it could come and go as it pleased in the palace. It could go anywhere. The little fox especially liked to run to the concubines' palaces and secretly listen to gossip. Ning Shu didn't want her own palace to become a place where others could come and go as they pleased. It was likely that the little fox wouldn't come out to cause trouble for a long time. It also wouldn't be able to play with Hu Chunwang. Qing Zhu, go to the Imperial Household Department tomorrow and see if there are any cute and big pets for Chunwang. Ning Shu said this and closed her eyes to sleep. Oh my, it was better to sleep alone in a big bed. Compared to Ning Shu's comfort, Hu Qing was like an iceberg. She held the little fox in her arms and said angrily, let's see if you'll run around again in the future. Didn't I promise you that nothing would happen between me and the Empress? Now you've hurt yourself like this. The little fox looked at Hu Qing pitifully, but Hu Qing's face was cold. In fact, his heart had already softened. He said coldly, let's see if you dare run to the Empress Palace again. Woo, the little fox whispered. It stuck out its pink tongue and licked Hu Qing's palm. It used its little sharp teeth to bite Hu Qing's finger. It seemed to be telling him not to be angry. After being bitten by the little fox, Hu Qing's entire body felt like it had been electrocuted. His whole body was numb. His finger was bitten by the little fox, and there was a slight pain. It was an indescribable pleasure. Immediately, he felt his lower abdomen heat up. It was very exciting. This was a feeling that Hu Qing had never experienced in more than 20 years. With just this bite, Hu Qing suddenly felt the intoxicating love between a man and a woman. That kind of uncontrollable impulse and desire. Hu Qing looked at the little fox in his arms with a burning gaze. Its eyes were very clear, and they were filled with innocence and confusion. Hu Qing's lower abdomen had already raised its head. Enduring the burning heat in his body, Hu Qing placed the little fox on the dragon bed and said in a hoarse voice, hurry up and sleep. The little fox narrowed its eyes and licked Hu Qing's hand. Hu Qing almost couldn't control himself. He gritted his teeth and said, hurry up and sleep. Only then did the little fox fall asleep contentedly. Hu Qing was about to explode from holding it in. When the little fox finally fell asleep, Hu Qing sneaked into Imperial concubine Xian's palace. Hu Qing didn't want to see Ning Shu at all. He blamed him in his heart for causing Hu to be injured. On the bed, Hu Qing was all kinds of passionate and fierce. He tortured Imperial concubine Xian until she was half dead. But the woman on the bed was very satisfied. After he vented his desire, Hu Qing's heart suddenly felt guilty. When he thought about how the little fox was injured while he was rolling around with another woman, Hu Qing felt very uncomfortable. He quickly got on the bed and put on his clothes. Ignoring Imperial concubine Xian's urging to stay, he hurriedly left. When he returned to the bedroom, Hu Qing looked at the little fox sleeping on the dragon bed. His heart suddenly softened. He reached out a finger and touched the tip of its pink nose. He even wanted to bend down and kiss it. No, Hu was only his pet. How could he have such an impulse for an animal? It was too unbelievable. But in Hu Qing's heart, he thought that the smart and cute Hu wasn't a fox at all. Perhaps it was a fox immortal who had cultivated successfully. Hu Qing's heart really hoped that Hu could transform into a human. Chapter 230. Hu Qing didn't care much about the matters between men and women. Otherwise, Hu Qing would rarely go to the harem with so many beauties. But now, Hu Qing had an incomparable and uncontrollable impulse. Hu Qing's joy was mixed with a sense of shame. making Huaqing feel very conflicted. Ningxu slept very well that night. When she woke up in the morning, she felt refreshed. Just as she left the palace, the little munchkin, Huaqing, who was holding something in his arms, bumped into Ningxu's arms. He was practically twisting his body as he whined to Ningxu. "Mother, is this puppy for me?" "Yes, this puppy is for you." Ningxu sat down and looked at the puppy in Huaqing's arms. This puppy was only a month old, and its body was very furry. Ningxu patted the stool next to her, for Huaqing to sit next to her. Huaqing carefully held the puppy. Ningxu looked at the male puppy and said to Huaqing, "The little fox was injured last night, so it can't play with you in the future. Let this puppy accompany you. From now on, besides studying, you have to take care of this puppy. There are a lot of dirty things on the puppy's body, so you have to bathe it often." "Is the little fox injured? Is it serious?" Huaqing asked anxiously. Ningxu said indifferently, "It's not serious. It's just that its leg is injured, so it can't walk for the time being. Don't disturb its recovery. Your father won't let you see the little fox, so don't disturb it for the time being." "I will remember." Huaqing nodded. "I will listen to mother. You're still a child. Eat with mother," Ningxu said to Huaqing. Huaqing was quite cute, and his body had a milky fragrance. Huaqing sat next to Ningxu. Ningxu gave him some food, and Huaqing quickly said, "Thank you, mother." Ningxu smiled. What a polite child. Huaqing picked up a steamed bun and placed it next to the puppy's mouth. The puppy only stuck out its tongue and licked it. Ningxu said, "The puppy is too small to eat this. Is it troublesome to make some porridge for the puppy later? Is Chunwang regretting it now?" Huaqing was afraid that Ningxu would change her mind, so he quickly said, "Mother, I will definitely take good care of the dog." After breakfast, Ningxu took the medicinal powder and applied it on the puppy to kill the insects. Huaqing also helped and applied the powder on his hand. "Chunwang, it's a small life. You have to take good care of it. Since you've chosen it, you have to take responsibility for it. Do you understand?" Ningxu instructed Huaqing. "I'll remember everything. I'll definitely take good care of him." Huaqing's face flushed red, and he seemed very surprised. He acted coquettishly in Ningxu's arms. "Mother, you're so nice. I'll definitely study hard and take good care of the puppy. Go." Ningxu patted Huaqing's shoulder and instructed Huaqing's wet nurse to not let the little prince be scratched by the puppy. After Huaqing left, Qingzhu bowed to Ningxu and said, "Nyang Nyang, the concubines of the various palaces have come to pay their respects. Let them in." It was time to see these women. Ningxu stroked her wide sleeves. Ningxu walked into the main hall from the side hall. As soon as she entered the main hall, Ningxu's eyes were dazzled. She looked at the room full of women. There were all kinds. There were charming, cold, plump, and fragrant. The room was filled with fragrance. It was simply a pleasure. This concubine pays her respects to the empress. May the empress have good fortune and peace. The concubine Ningxu bowed. Ningxu looked at these beautiful women. So beautiful. "Rise," Ningxu said faintly. As soon as Ningxu's voice fell, a woman suddenly said, "Nyang Nyang, last night the emperor stayed in noble consort Xian's palace." Ningxu's expression was indifferent, but she was surprised. Last night, Little Fox was injured. Huaqing didn't accompany Little Fox and actually had sex with a woman? Wasn't Huaqing abstinent? He hadn't had sex with concubines for many months. Why did he suddenly have sex with concubines? Noble consort Xian has arrived. The eunuch outside the hall shouted. Noble consort Xian only arrived at this time. When noble consort Xian walked in, her body was a bit stiff. When she walked, her waist swayed slightly. Noble consort Xian's face was pink. Her entire person seemed to be shrouded in the clouds. She was in high spirits. It seemed that Huaqing really did have sex with noble consort Xian last night. As soon as noble consort Xian walked in, she was met with all kinds of envious and jealous gazes. Noble consort Xian endured her discomfort and bowed to Ningxu. This concubine pays her respects to the empress. I'm really unwell and came late. Please forgive me. Ningxu nodded and let noble consort Xian sit down. Noble consort Xian, yesterday was the 15th. Why did the emperor come to your palace? A concubine directly tried to sow discord. Noble consort Xian's expression changed. She quickly explained. Last night, the emperor suddenly came to this concubine's palace in the middle of the night. Last night, the emperor suddenly came. Without saying anything, he pressed her under his body, and then did all kinds of things to her. Thinking of the scene last night, noble consort Xian's face turned red again. Her beauty was indescribable. Seeing noble consort Xian like this, the other concubines felt a burst of envy and jealousy. The emperor hadn't come to the inner palace for a long time, but noble consort Xian had taken the lead. If it was the empress, it would be fine to endure. But it was a concubine. Everyone almost tore the handkerchief in their hands. Ning Shu felt that it was quite boring. So many beautiful women were jealous of a man, but Hu Qing didn't like these beauties. He liked a fox. It was simply ridiculous. Ning Shu suddenly felt that the women in this room, including himself, were quite miserable. Their lives were worse than a beast's. Ning Shu reintroduced these concubines. For example, the one who had just instigated discord was Lan Jieyu. Then there was the incomparably cold consort Da, and the enchanting noble consort Song. Ning Shu felt that it was boring, and had everyone leave. It was quite boring to gather together, and say such sour words. It was better to practice martial arts. The concubines all left. Only noble consort Xian stayed. Ning Shu asked, Noble consort, is there anything else? Noble consort Xian hesitated and said, Nyang last night. Ning Shu waved her hand and interrupted noble consort Xian. It's a good thing that the emperor is here. It's also good to give birth to an heir for the emperor. Noble consort Xian didn't know if the empress was telling the truth or not. She bowed and left. After she left, Qing Zhu and Ning Shu comforted Nyang. Qing Zhu originally wanted to comfort Ning Shu, but she didn't know what to say. Ning Shu didn't care who Hu Qing was here with. She only needed to complete her task. The marshal's residence was executed. Moreover, the dragon robe and the correspondence of the enemy country were found in the residence. This matter wasn't done by Hu Qing. Ning Shu twisted her head off. Moreover, it meant that there was a spy in the marshal's residence. It must be Hu Qing's people. As long as the marshal's residence was there, her position was stable. Hu Qing didn't dare to directly depose her. The most important thing was to stabilize the marshal's residence. Chapter 231. Ning Shu pretended to visit the little fox. The little fox was lying on the dragon bed. Other than the cloth wrapped around her forelimbs, everything else was fine. She was full of energy. When the little fox saw Ning Shu, her eyes were filled with hostility. She used her other forelimb to carelessly play with the ball. The ball was exquisitely made, and the material was very soft. The little fox was speechless. She hated this empress. She was Hu Qing's wife, so the little fox hated her. Her legs were injured because of this woman, and she couldn't move for a long time. Hu Qing didn't allow her to run. She was bored to death. This palace was so boring. She was so unlucky. How did she become a fox? Heavens, heaven and earth. How could she be so unlucky? Ning Shu looked at the little fox, whose eyes were darting around. She looked extremely intelligent and human-like. No wonder Hu Qing doted on this little fox so much. Why are you here? Hu Qing walked in and saw Ning Shu in the room. His face sank. When he saw the little fox playing on the dragon bed, his face softened. This concubine pays respects to the emperor. Ning Shu respectfully bowed to Hu Qing. Hu Qing grunted. He didn't even look at Ning Shu. He sat on the bed and reached out to touch the little fox's head. His eyes were full of affection. The little fox licked Hu Qing's finger. Hu Qing's eyes deepened. Ning Shu felt like an outsider. He couldn't integrate into the atmosphere between the man and the fox. It was very awkward. The little fox seemed to have skin cravings and enjoyed Hu Qing's touch. Ning Shu smacked his lips. He felt a little disgusted when he thought about the relationship between the two of them. It was beyond the relationship between a master and a pet. Ning Shu stood at the side like a block of wood. Hu Qing asked Ning Shu, "Is there anything else, Empress?" "This concubine is here to deliver medicine." Ning Shu took out the medicine bottle and placed it on the table. This medicine powder is very effective for wounds. Sorry to trouble you, Empress. Hua Qing said indifferently. His fingers stroked the little fox's golden fur. It was so furry that Hua Qing's fingers almost sank into her fur. Ning Shu bit his lips and looked at Hua Qing with a bitter expression. Hua Qing looked up and met Ning Shu's eyes. Is there anything else? Ning Shu blinked and let his eyes fill with tears. He said bitterly, Your Majesty, you went to noble consort Xian's palace last night. Your Majesty, yesterday was the 15th. Hua Qing's expression darkened. His first reaction was to look at the little fox. The little fox immediately pointed its butt at Hua Qing and wagged its golden tail. It was clearly angry. Is the Empress reprimanding me? This emperor is the son of heaven. Is there any place that this emperor cannot go? Hua Qing almost flew into a rage out of humiliation. He looked at Ning Shu with an unfriendly gaze. Clearly, he was dissatisfied with Ning Shu, saying such things in front of the little fox. Hua Qing had never treated the little fox as an ordinary fox. She was very smart and knew everything. Now that she was like this, it meant that she was angry. Ning Shu's expression was very sad. He couldn't speak and looked like he had lost his soul. The little fox looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu bared his little fangs, as if he was mocking him. Ning Shu looked at her indifferently. Finally he bowed to Hua Qing. This concubine will take her leave. Hua Qing waved his hand. He seemed to be very impatient with Ning Shu, and told him to leave quickly. As soon as Ning Shu went out, he heard the crisp sound of porcelain falling to the ground. He looked back and saw the little fox sitting on the table. She had pushed the medicine bottle she had placed on the table off the table. It fell to the ground, and some of the medicine powder spilled out. The little fox whimpered at Hua Qing. Hua Qing's face was full of affection. He tapped its pink nose. You little fellow, if you don't like the Empress things, then we won't accept the Empress things in the future. The little fox was a little happier. It raised its head slightly and whimpered angrily at Hua Qing. Hua Qing seemed to be able to read minds. He explained to the little fox. Last night we were wrong. We shouldn't have gone to noble consort Xian's palace. You little thing, you were jealous. The little fox nuzzled Hua Qing's neck and whimpered. From now on, we will only like you, little thing. Naughty little thing. Hua Qing felt a piercing pain in his neck. The little fox was biting him, but it wasn't very painful. He knew that the little fox was punishing him. Hua Qing's face showed an intoxicated and forbearing expression. Ning Shu didn't know how the man and fox communicated. It was amazing. Was this the legendary telepathy? They could understand each other's thoughts with just a look? How amazing. TSK. Ning Shu rubbed his eyes and decided not to watch. He went back to his palace and let them be lovey-dovey. Nyang Nyang, madam is here. She is waiting for Nyang Nyang in the hall. Ning Shu had just arrived at the palace when Qing Zhu came to greet him. Ning Shu hurried into the hall and saw a woman wearing a noble robe sitting in the hall. This was the original owner's mother, Zhao Shi. This subject greets Nyang Nyang. When Zhao Shi saw Ning Shu, her eyes were full of concern. Ning Shu hurriedly supported Zhao Shi. Mother, please rise. How is Nyang Nyang's health? I heard that Nyang Nyang wasn't feeling well. Ning Shu asked Zhao Shi. Did the imperial physician prescribe medicine? Ning Shu smiled and said, Mother, your daughter is fine. How are grandfather and father? Your father is fine. Your grandfather is old and has some minor problems. It's nothing serious. Lady Zhao nodded and said, Your father heard that you were not in good health in the palace, so he was a little worried. Mother, I'm fine. Don't let father worry. Your daughter is fine. Ning Shu said to Zhao Shi with concern. Mother, you also need to take care of your health. Zhao Shi looked around and whispered to Ning Shu. Nyang Nyang, yesterday was the 15th. Was the emperor resting in your palace? Ning Shu. He was in daughter's palace. Ning Shu changed the topic and had Qing Zhu take the box. Ning Shu said to Zhao Shi. Mother, this is all the tonics that daughter gave to grandfather and father. You should take them back. Zhao Shi waved her hand. The family doesn't lack for things. Nyang Nyang can keep these things. This is daughter's filial piety. Ning Shu forced Zhao Shi to accept it. When she handed it to Zhao Shi, she whispered, "Give it to grandfather." Zhao Shi's expression was normal. She said with a smile, "Many thanks for Nyang Nyang's reward." Zhao Shi and Ning Shu both had things on their minds. Then after a few words Zhao Shi left. Ning Shu could only hope that grandfather could understand what he wanted to say. Thinking that he was going against Huqing, the emperor, Ning Shu's legs went soft. From the memories of the original, Huqing was a person with true ability. He was a man who was scheming and suspicious. Ning Shu had to be careful. He couldn't reveal any flaws. They had been husband and wife for many years. Even if Huqing didn't like his wife, he still understood Xiao Xiao. When Ning Shu was in front of Huqing, she had to pretend to adore him and help him. Chapter 232. Little Munchkin, Hua Chunwang, came over with the puppy. He handed his handwriting to Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at Hua Chunwang's handwriting and said happily, "Chunwang's handwriting is much better than before." Hua Chunwang looked at Ning Shu with watery eyes and said shyly, "Mother, I will study hard. Recently, father hasn't tested me on homework. I have memorized a lot of books." Now Hua Chunwang was very disappointed. It was as if he had worked very hard only to find that there was no test. He didn't have the chance to show off. Ning Shu reached out and picked up the fur on the neck of the puppy in Hua Chunwang's arms. The puppy struggled and looked very cute. "Mother, be gentle." Hua Chunwang looked at the puppy with heartache. Ning Shu stuffed the puppy back into Hua Chunwang's arms. She looked at him seriously and said, "Chunwang, you are not studying for anyone else. You are not studying for father or mother. You are studying for yourself." Ning Shu still felt that Hua Chunwang was too lonely. There were no children of the right age to play with in the palace. That was why he was so attracted to the little fox in the plot. Xiao Xiao loved her son, but she put more pressure and expectation on Hua Chunwang. Hua Chunwang couldn't bear the burden. He should find a partner for this child. He couldn't play with a dog every day. He should find a study partner. Ning Shu first thought of the original owner's brother. He had a son who was 1 or 2 years older than Hua Chunwang. This child was also beheaded in that accident. The original owner thought of his nephew. He had died at such a young age. Because of him, the whole family was executed. The emperor was heartless. His son was unfilial. There were too many things weighing on his heart. In the end, the original owner chose to commit suicide. "Do you still remember your brother Qing Yang? Mother will let brother Qing Yang come into the palace to accompany you, okay?" Ning Shu asked Hua Chunwang. "Mother wants Chunwang to be happy." "Really?" Hua Chunwang looked at Ning Shu and said happily, "There will be a brother coming into the palace to accompany me." "That's right." Ning Shu saw how happy Hua Chunwang was. He should let Hua Chunwang interact with other children. Ning Shu sent someone to inform his grandfather of this matter. The next day, Xiao Qingyang was sent to the palace. Xiao Qingyang looked strong, like a little calf. At first glance, one could tell that he was from a military family. Speaking of which, the Xiao clan was also filled with talents, with 4 generations living under the same roof. But in the end, not a single one of them survived, which made one's heart ache. "Auntie," Xiao Qingyang called out to Ning Shu. "Call her imperial concubine, not auntie." Zhao Shi unhappily patted Ning Shu's head. "Nyang, this boy is unruly. I'm afraid that he will offend the other Nyang when he enters the palace." "Grandmother, don't pat my head," Xiao Qingyang said loudly to Zhao Shi while rubbing his head. "Mother, don't worry. Your daughter will take good care of Qingyang." Ning Shu let the eager Hua Chunwang greet Xiao Qingyang. Ning Shu let the 2 children go out to play. Seeing Hua Chunwang so happy, Ning Shu also felt relieved. This could be considered as doing something for the original owner's son. Zhao Shi Ning Shu said, "Father told me to thank Nyang for the things. Father said that he knows and will take care of it. Nyang doesn't need to worry." "Mother, the marshal's mansion is like the sun in the sky right now. There will always be some rascals scheming to deal with the marshal's mansion. We have to be careful with every step we take. Mother and sister-in-law must restrain the people in the mansion. Also, don't let people of unknown origins come to the marshal's mansion and use the marshal's mansion's prestige and power to bully others." Ning Shu suspected that the dragon robe and letter were the doing of the marshal's mansion. Right now, the marshal's mansion was a target. It had an empress, and even gave birth to the eldest son of the first wife. The marshal held a large number of troops in his hands. No matter how one looked at it, the marshal's mansion was flourishing and had boundless wealth. Zhao Shi quickly said, "I will definitely pay attention." Xiao Qingyang stayed in the palace. Ning Shu let the two children live together. Every day, she set a time for them to study and play. They had to follow this schedule. Otherwise, she would send the puppy and Xiao Qingyang away. Hua Chengwang was now used to having someone to accompany him. If he returned to his old lonely days, he would rather die than live. He promised Ning Shu that he would study hard with Xiao Qingyang. Ning Shu nodded. She had the two children come to her palace to eat 3 meals a day. Ning Shu felt that Hua Chengwang had grown taller over this period of time. His appetite had clearly increased. When Hua Chengwang and Xiao Qingyang were eating, they would sneakily throw meat under the table for the puppy. Ning Shu pretended not to see it. Hua Chengwang was now very close to Ning Shu. Sometimes he wouldn't call her mother, but Ning Shu mother. Although this brat wasn't her biological son, she had raised him for a period of time. Ning Shu's heart softened. This child was just too lonely. "Have you played with the little fox recently?" Ning Shu patted Hua Chengwang's head and asked. Hua Chengwang said, "The little fox hasn't come out of Imperial Father's chambers recently. I haven't played with it." Ning Shu nodded. "The little fox's claws are very sharp. Play with it less in the future. It's a beast after all. It will hurt if you get scratched. Although your brother Qingyang knows some martial arts, I can't protect you all the time." Hua Chengwang nodded. "I won't let brother Qingyang get hurt. Brother Qingyang and the puppy will play with me." Ning Shu let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, this brat didn't play with the little fox and run around blindly. "Go play with brother Qingyang. Be careful," Ning Shu reminded Hua Chengwang. Ever since the little fox got injured, Hua Qing hadn't entered the harem for a long time. A group of concubines ran to Ning Shu and cried. Ning Shu felt a headache when she saw such a large group of women sobbing in front of her and wiping their tears with handkerchiefs. Damn it, she really felt that being the empress was miserable. She had to share her husband with so many women. Her husband didn't fuck off with these women, but these women still cried and made a fuss in front of the empress, asking the empress to find her husband and fuck off with these women. Damn it, it couldn't get any more miserable. It wasn't easy to be a virtuous empress. Ning Shu silently watched these women cry. The person who should be crying the most should be the original owner of this body. Why did it feel like this empress was the head housekeeper, who came to her for everything? If you want to sleep with Hua Qing, go get him yourself. What was the point of crying to her? Ning Shu said indifferently. All right, stop crying. His Majesty is busy with court matters, and has no time to enter the harem. You should be more concerned about His Majesty's health. Instead of crying in front of me, you might as well make some tonic soup and send it to His Majesty. The concubines looked at each other in dismay. In the end, they took their leave and walked away with light steps. They were probably going back to make something to eat. The little fox would probably get angry again when she saw the things the concubines sent over. Ning Shu expressed that she was doing it on purpose to annoy people. There were so many concubines in the harem, but she insisted on having an ambiguous relationship with the fox. Although she was human on the inside, she was a beast on the outside. Chapter 233. When the concubines received Ning Shu's instructions, they sent food to him 3 times a day, constantly trying to make their presence known. Hua Qing's expression didn't change in the face of the concubines' enthusiasm. He didn't summon any of the concubines, afraid that the little fox would be angry. But the little fox was very angry when she saw the soup and pastries. The emperor was indeed a stud horse. The little fox despised Hua Qing in her heart, and felt sour in her heart. Hua Qing doted on her a lot, but she was a fox. There were so many picturesque beauties in his harem. What was she? Oh heavens, how could she be a fox? The frustrated little fox ruined all the pastries and soup, making a mess on the table. The little eunuch next to her lowered his head and pretended not to see. Huaqing didn't care about the soup. Instead, he said to the little fox in a doting manner, "Shouldn't your anger be appeased? Little thing, why are you so cute?" The little fox whimpered and turned to leave in its sundera manner. Her whole body was full of arrogance that said, "I'm very angry. Don't talk to me. Even if you talk to me, I'll ignore you." Huaqing laughed and picked up the little fox. "Why is your temper so wild? You're so cute. I don't know what to do with you." The little fox was angry, but when she saw Huaqing so happy, she couldn't help but bare her teeth and fiercely bite Huaqing's finger. This time, the little fox used a lot of strength and bit Huaqing's finger. The wound bled. "Your Majesty," the little eunuch asked in shock, "should we summon the imperial physician?" "There's no need." Huaqing thought for a moment and directly put the finger that the little fox bit into his mouth. He could even feel the little fox's breath on his finger. Huaqing's heart was beating like thunder. He felt that he was indirectly kissing the little fox. Huaqing couldn't help but move his tongue. Although his mouth was full of the taste of blood, Huaqing felt his whole body heat up. What was wrong with him? Was he sick? Woo woo woo. The little fox saw that she had bitten Huaqing and was bleeding. She immediately looked at Huaqing with an anxious and guilty expression. Her wet eyes were filled with tears. "Your Majesty, this little fox has injured the dragon body. Do you want to?" Before the little eunuch could finish speaking, he met Huaqing's cold gaze. He was so frightened that he immediately plopped down. "Your Majesty, spare my life. Your Majesty, spare my life." "Drag him down and give him 20 beatings. He'll know what to say and what not to say," Huaqing said coldly. Immediately, guards came in and dragged the little eunuch out. The personal eunuch beside Huaqing said, "Your Majesty, I will also go out to supervise the execution." Huaqing wished that there was no one else in the room. He waved his hand and dismissed his personal eunuch, Eunuch Qiu. After Eunuch Qiu left, Huaqing hugged the little fox and said, "Little thing, your anger has subsided. Look, you've bitten me. If there's a next time, I won't let you off so easily." Although Huaqing said that he was going to punish the little fox, his tone was very charming. The little fox blushed a little. She was secretly glad that she had a fox face. Otherwise, she would definitely be blushing right now. Thinking about how this man doted on her so much, the little fox's tears fell. To have a man like this to dote on her was a little compensation from the heavens for transmigrating into a fox. "Little fox, don't cry. I was only joking when I said that I was going to punish you. I said that you're not allowed to cry again. If you cry again, I'll kiss you." Huaqing said those words in a hurry. He was stunned and didn't dare to look directly into the little fox's eyes. The little fox lamented in her heart again. Why was she a fox? There was such a super handsome man in front of her, and she couldn't even eat him. She was really going to break down. The little fox stuck out her tongue and licked Huaqing's lips. Then she intimately licked Huaqing's cheek. "Since you dote on me so much, I'll give you a kiss." Huaqing felt as if his whole body was soaked in boiling hot water. It was so uncomfortable that his lower body reacted. "Little thing, you're so naughty." Huaqing's voice was a little hoarse. He placed the little fox on the bed. "I'm going to review the memorials. Be good here." The little fox lay on the dragon bed in boredom and rolled around. Huaqing looked like he was seriously reviewing the memorials, but the cinnabar brush in his hand didn't fall down for a long time. He gripped the cinnabar brush so tightly that the veins on the back of his hand popped out. It looked like he was enduring a lot of pain. He stared straight at the memorials in front of him. His mind was filled with the little fox's cute appearance and the bone-deep tremor of her tongue licking his lips. He was going crazy. He was really going crazy. Outside the hall, the little eunuch was pressed down on a bench by the guards. He complained tearfully to his master, Eunuch Qiu. "Master, this servant didn't do anything wrong. You insensible thing. Can't you see that His Majesty is the most powerful person in the palace, and that fox is the second most powerful person? Even Her Majesty the Empress can't compare to this fox. In the future, if you encounter anything, just turn a blind eye." Eunuch Qiu looked at the little eunuch with disappointment. The little eunuch cried and said, "Master, it's just an animal. Still not shutting up? Do you think you've lived for too long and want to die?" Eunuch Qiu picked up his horsetail whisk and hit the little eunuch on the head. He ordered the guards hit. The guards picked up the wooden planks and hit the little eunuch on the buttocks. It was so painful that the little eunuch cried out. The guards were a bit lighter on account of Eunuch Chiao. When the 20 planks came down, the little eunuch's eyes had already rolled back. Eunuch Chiao sighed and hurriedly found an imperial physician. In any case, the eunuch was his disciple. In the palace, they could be considered people who supported each other. Ning Shu was watching Hua Qingwang and Xiao Qingyang right when Qingzhu walked into the hall and whispered into Ning Shu's ear. Nyang Nyang Xiaoenzi, who serves His Majesty, has been hit. Ning Shu raised her eyebrows and said to the two children, "Continue writing. You're not allowed to be lazy. Imperial Mother will come to check in a moment." When they arrived at the main hall, Ning Shu asked, "Did you find out what the reason was?" Qingzhu shook her head. "I only heard that His Majesty said it himself. I'll go find out more." Ning Shu waved her hand and said calmly, "No need. Don't worry about this matter. Send some medicine to Xiaoenzi." "I'll remember." Qingzhu left. Ning Shu tapped his finger on the table and made a rhythmic sound. This matter was most likely related to the little fox. Hua Qing's love for the little fox was built on the pain of others. The more callous he was to others, the more it would appear that Hua Qing doted on the little fox. Unprincipled and bottomless doting, it felt like the little fox was about to ascend to the heavens. Ning Shu suddenly laughed. True love was standing on the opposite side of the world. He didn't know if the little fox could be with Hua Qing when he stood on the opposite side of the world. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.